Welcome to the Intercut podcast channel, the weekly place to hear the latest movies, TV, and entertainment that people can't cut away from. I'm your co-host, Zachary Shevich, and joining me, hopping on the Red One bus to Fresh Market, it's Arturo Zurita and Amanda the Jedi. What's going on, guys? Happy returns from Sundance.
Sundance.
I'm tuning in from the waitlist line at the Eccles. It's been reopened. We're still waiting. They're promising they will get all of us in.
I'm still trying to get into Opus. You know?
Yeah. I'm on Main Street. Every step I take, I slide one back.
Yeah, you're still in Atropia, guaranteed a spot. Not kidding.
Oh. Hopefully there is enough space for everyone in our audience to at least catch this 90-minute presentation, because there wasn't always space for us at Sundance this year, though we still
we made it. Yeah,
plenty of movies. I ended up seeing 50, which is a lot more than I thought I would see after the first couple days of the festival.
Those are classic numbers.
Yeah, those are they're old-time hustle numbers for me at Sundance. I don't know if any of you came up with the final tally that you're proud of, that you want to share here. Art, you're usually the high bar for all of us.
2021. I'm getting there. 22, 23, 24, 25.
I'll do this on fast forward.
28, 29, 30,
I'll
31,
just jump in
32,
and say
33, 34.
I'm like 35 to 40.
Solid numbers.
Yeah.
And like you threw in a Hal and Harper 4-hour watch in there.
Oh, true. 4.5 hour watch.
That should count for 2.
Yeah, 4.5 hour watch of Hal and Harper. I hit a point with the digitals where I'm like, it ain't happening for me mentally.
We still got a couple of docs that we've got screeners for.
Yes.
But I'm 65 and about 40 shorts.
That tracks. At some point, I just gave up. At some point, literally, I will look up reviews of what other people are saying. Like, I don't need to spend my time doing this.
Yeah, there was a point I think you had mentioned where you're like, this one isn't good. I was like, yeah, but I'm a psychopath. I'm just gonna have to play it just so I have it done before the FOMO.
Yeah.
There are some movies towards the end. There was a doc that's animated. I don't want to call it out. It's the only animated doc. Where I was struggling, I was like, you know what? I don't need to be a completionist, so I can't even.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fair. Hey, still a great fest. We always come into it always wondering, is this going to be a year as strong as the other one? And honestly, you hit that point after 25 where it really is just how many can you get to before you really start finding the diamonds in the rough, those that may go under the radar. And while it was more difficult this year in terms of being able to see the 32 in-person premieres, they're not online. You have no idea where they're going to premiere next. There's no trailers, posters, none of that. We also did have the internet component, which, as we mentioned in our preview, that means anyone can watch from at home until you start sharing Dylan O'Brien's booty. And at that point, it's kind of all up in the air now. But that's the reason also I were able to watch as many movies, fit it in within the 2 weeks of being in Park City and Salt Lake.
Definitely. I will say that I think, from my perspective, that maybe this was a slightly weaker version of Sundance than we've normally gotten, which is not to say it was a weak year of the festival. I think a lot of times people sort of quibble over that differential, and that like things can still have plenty of quality while not being the absolute best that you've ever experienced. But when I compare my top 10 this year to my top 10 last year, which had A Real Pain, It's What's Inside, Dee Dee, Daughters, Will and Harper, A Different Man, I Saw the TV Glow, Presence, In a Violent Nature, Black Box Diaries, that was a really, really strong top 10. Here, there are, among the 50 movies I saw, probably about 40 that I liked for various reasons. So plenty of stuff worthwhile, worth watching, worth celebrating too. I just don't know if necessarily I had the same top-of-the-line experiences this year, or quite as many of them, as I did at least last year.
I would say I'm a little, maybe not fully on par as last year. I think it's a time will tell. It's like, as I revisit things, will things get stronger? Will things feel weaker? But I don't think I'm that far off from last year personally, but I do feel like the movies this year that were like big hits were things that felt very catered to my tastes. Things resonated with me a lot. I had a really good time. It took a while for me to see a movie where I was, actually, that's not true. It was the first. It was the second movie I saw. It was like the second movie I saw. But I mean, things that I felt like I really disliked. It took a very long time to see something where I was like, oh, I hate this.
I do think all three of us had a little bit of bad luck in the first couple days.
I disagree for myself, actually. For you, I agree. For me...
Oh, Zach had a couple of days where he was coming back home worse than what our boy in Train Dreams. He had logs were not falling down the way they should.
When they sent me tickets, I just started being like, no, I bought that one.
Zach would have a bad wait list and not get in. And then when he finally got a ticket, it'd be a bird movie that was just horrendous. It was a rough first week. And then the second week was even more up in the air because of everything that they were pulling and us having to travel and do all these different things. But
that was weird.
I'll agree on the narrative-wise. I do think it was a strong year, but I'm more confident in saying that the documentaries, bro, they're like it's a pot of fours where they all just delivered. I think it was a stronger year for docs, even if there wasn't a doc itself that was as high as Daughters that made your top 10. I don't know.
Or even Black
probably
Box.
not. Yeah, I've got my docs at a separate one as opposed to our top 10 that we'll be covering here. But obviously with the collection of 60-something movies that we've all seen, if you don't hear about it here in the honorable mentions, we're going to have a whole other discussion that's probably already up where we would have answered questions and the like. And we're always looking forward to answer questions for the future stuff as well because, hey, we're nearing probably the final Sundance. In Park City?
We'll see.
We'll Maybe see. Not.
Maybe Cincinnati. Not.
That's something we will probably discuss in our Sundance live stream.
The longer one.
Yeah.
But giving the documentaries is a good shout. You know, we are coming up on the 97th Annual Academy Awards, and 4 out of 5 Best Documentary nominees were premieres at last year's Sundance Film Festival. Are any of the movies that we're going to mention on our list this year going to be nominees next year? Maybe. We will find out. Could be. We'll talk about those best movies of Sundance 2025 in just a bit. But first, make sure you're subscribed to the Intercut podcast, whether that's the video podcast on youtube.com/intercutpod or the audio podcast, which is available on most podcatchers. Also, follow Intercut on social media, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram. We have a Threads. I don't really use the Threads much. We have a Threads. All of them are at Intercut Pod. That's at Intercut Pod, and that is short for podcast. You can also support the show for as little as $3 a month right here on YouTube by clicking the join button that's on this page to become a member. Or you can go over to patreon.com/intercutpod and sign up to join the Intercuties, where you get early access to episodes like this one, an invitation to our monthly patron Google Hang video chat, whatever you want to call it, and you might even help us decide on future episodes of the show. You get a vote in some things of that nature. A lot of fun benefits to being an Intercutie. Plus, you support the podcast and help ensure that we can keep doing what we do. Also, be sure to leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. If we get to 250 5-star reviews on Apple, we'll buy you an Alberto's burrito at the next Sundance Film Festival. That's something that we actually probably can do.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, we can make that happen.
It'll be moldy by the time you get it, but I promise you.
No, you have to be there. You have to be there to collect. Okay.
Yes,
you have to be.
Or be willing to receive a moldy burrito in the mail.
Yeah. Those are your options.
All right, so we will talk about those best movies of the Sundance Film Festival, our top 10s. I'm happy to get us started with a movie that absolutely infuriated me. It left me shaking. I was not having a good time watching this one, but
you caught
in
flight
a
risk?
really in a really effective way. My number 10 is the documentary The Alabama Solution from directors Andrew Jarecki and Charlotte Kaufman. This is a story of the incarcerated men in one of America's worst prisons, and through a lot of footage taken from smuggled in camera phones and voice recordings taken in hushed corners and stuff like that, we're given an access to a really perilous existence of these prisoners who just are completely cast aside by society and given no benefits, no leeway, just subject to the most torturous conditions, and caught in a system that absolutely disregards their benefits. It is a maddening documentary for the way that it just clearly lays out human indifference to cruelty. It is a movie that will make you furious at people who are supposedly in charge of these systems and trying to see the best results of them. It is just like a incredible display of the banality of evil in some ways. And I was so mad watching this documentary, I couldn't even stay for the Q&A because I was just in too negative a headspace. I had to go get a sandwich. So a sandwich won't cure the people's problems, but it might help you get through this really, really infuriating but riveting documentary. I got Alabama Solution at number 10.
That's one of the ones I missed that I'm like super bummed that I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
Or
was
maybe
one of
not.
the
Fun
It's
time,
heavy.
but
Yeah, they added this and Stringer, maybe. Those were the last 2-minute docs that they put in there when Billion
yeah.
Dollar Man and something else, I want to say, got taken out. So we caught this one at the Ray. This is a 5-star documentary. It's the only 5 stars I gave at the fest, and it is the number one documentary without a doubt. I did separate mine, so I don't have this in my top 10. Zach is right in every way, shape, or form. What do you say about narrative movies? They're supposed to be a what? To
Empathy
get you.
Machine.
Yeah, so a documentary that puts the 2 people at risk because they're still in there is an unbelievable documentary.
That's crazy.
Breaking down piece by piece what we're still doing in Alabama. The craziest part is you think the Alabama solution is something to help them out, not realizing the Alabama solution is the problem. That's what's got them in there because they think doing this to inmates is it. When you realize that these people are not being just taken away, it's modern day slavery. People who need to go to prison because they shouldn't be out there in the communities, yet they're the free labor out there in the communities. It is an insane documentary that is a living, breathing thing. I told Zach when he had left, I saw Zach leave for 2 movies. One because he could not handle a grandpa, and this one because you just needed air. It's pushing 2 hours.
Yeah. Both movies made me really mad in very different ways.
In very different ways. But
Yeah.
when they came out, the 2 men Skyped in from the contraband phones that they had, and it was unreal. And an insane story. Just brace yourself for when this one comes out. This is the reason documentaries are made.
Damn.
Alabama Solution.
Really riveting, infuriating documentary, one that demands to be seen. So Alabama Solution, I got it number 10 on my list. Amanda, you want to go next? Give us your number 10?
No, Art, go.
All right, I'll go with one. I'm hoping I got a tight 10 here. Leaving my honorable mentions to the side, this one just skirted in there. Together. The midnight premiere, to a degree, that is also going to be out at South by, where it is going to be a blast to watch. We're already discussing seeing it again because we know this is a South by movie. It stars a real-life couple, consensually. What's some faces? Dave Franco, Allison Brie, as a couple who's been together so long. They're kind of codependent, a theme that we saw a lot throughout this year. And it's once they go out into the woods to live this brand new life that it becomes this metaphor of what they're going through while crossing over through this mystical well that they find. And it becomes a sort of body horror in the best way possible.
Yeah.
I think this is a blast of a movie. I think it's going to fire on all cylinders for mainstream audiences.
Yeah.
And it getting picked up by Neon, I think, is the best possible thing. I was thinking about a yanking scene. The other day, and I realized I can't believe they went there.
Yeah, pun intended, this is kind of a sticky movie in certain ways, and I think that my experience of watching it, I was maybe scrutinizing certain aspects of it that I think I might just care about less on the rewatch.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, even though this is a movie that made my honorable mentions, I wouldn't be surprised if getting to watch it again and letting it just sort of marinate, I might end up thinking this should have been one in my top 10 from Sundance. It's pretty strong. I think people will really like it.
I was like you. I was like, should I keep it off? And then I thought of that scene and I went, no, they didn't play it soft. They went there.
Yeah.
We have seen a lot of movies, especially in horrors, where they leave the ending a little bit more open-ended. The balls
This commits.
to actually go and end it on that note, I thought was great.
Because again, this is a story that, while not realistic in how it's portrayed, is personal to the director, to the writer, and they've come out the other side and they've found their findings and they can express those findings in a clear way, unlike some of the other movies we saw at this festival.
Enjoyable way, yeah.
In an enjoyable way. I just really like how it's kind of handling that idea of like you get into a relationship and you kind of, as people, we all have these like individual dreams and goals for ourselves. And then at some point, maybe you have to you have to either start meshing that with someone else or realize that like maybe they're not not attainable. And when do you have to realize, is that because of the person you're with, or is it actually just because it's not really what you want, so you haven't made it happen? And like kind of like what's the difference between losing your identity in a relationship and actually just becoming like a stronger unified front? So I think it handles that, you know?
Yeah.
They handled that really well.
I was impressed with it. Yeah, I liked it for a
I
genre
came out
movie.
the other side of that movie being like, you know, I you know, hopefully therapy gets me to the point where I feel like I can be vulnerable with someone like that again. And they don't hurt me.
Hey, or go visit a well in the woods. You never know. You might end up with an Irish fairy.
You know what? Well, I'm going to do one step before that. We're going to do one step before that, but like on a metaphorical
level. It's not your fault,
level.
Amanda. It's not your fault.
Thank you. But yeah, no, I this is higher on my list because again, I feel like this is just kind of, which is interesting. I don't know. Like I feel like these lists are going to maybe have some similar movies, but I feel like they're going to be very scattered in terms of how they're ranked for us because of just like what hit at what time of what day.
Every movie for Amanda is just a couple getting to
like a little bit. I just started moving things around because it was too much of a trend.
You
going
started
on.
looking at it like, nah, this is saying something right here.
I had to move
that's
some
not
shit
on
around.
you. That's on the programmers. You
That's on
can
the
only do a
programmers.
lineup of what they gave
like,
you.
Amanda's coming to the festival.
We gotta go. Yeah.
But no, it's really good. I thought it was really fun. It's one of those ones like I am excited to catch it again at South by Southwest because I think the crowd's gonna like really dig it.
Hell yeah.
So I'm excited for that. So yeah, Together, an easy recommend from all three of us. Even if it didn't make Zach's list, it probably would have if he not.
What an insane movie to tie with Alabama Solution. You can't do that. You can't do that, actually.
Polar opposite vibes.
Polar opposite.
Sure.
Like, they can leave if they wanted to. It's completely.
Yeah. We have a fuller review of Together as well on the channel if you want some more of our thoughts on it. But it's exciting, and it's got a, believe, August 1st release date, something like that.
That's perfect.
So cool.
That's VOD to be out for. Yeah, that's really good. Perfect. I've said it's a perfect date movie. Your first time for your first date or for your 10-year anniversary. It's a movie that definitely puts it all up on screen in the most entertaining way possible. Together.
Definitely. Cool. All right, so we are together in our recommendation of Together. But Amanda, what do you have at number 10 on your list?
This is tough. I feel like my 10 has kind of been like this swirling of a few different movies, and then Art was like, where you got Hal and Harper? And I was like, we're counting the television show? So I'm going to do something that is probably at face value going to seem disrespectful, but you have to bear with me because I think it kind of works. We're going to tie All That's Left of You with Hal and Harper because they're both kind of movies dealing with this kind of like trauma that comes out of grief of a moment, of a piece of, obviously one's on a much bigger scale, but they really do come down to the individuals. So All That's Left of You is the story of 3 generations of a Palestinian family, starting kind of like in 2022, an incident happens and it goes back to the grandfather when he was displaced from Palestine, and then kind of how it shifts through the family and how that like trauma and grief goes forward from each generation to generation. And it's kind of similar to A Real Pain in a way, except instead of ending up with the people who are like, I don't know what to do with these feelings in America, it's I don't know what to do with this still happening. You know, I've talked with Zach about it because we saw it together, and I think there are some areas where it probably could have fleshed out in different things, but I do think it's still an incredibly empathetic movie, like across the board, where it's just trying to understand people that are in pain and don't know how to like get through something to the other side and have a lot of conflicting emotions about that. I think there might be like a little bit of like, not a fumble, but I feel like it maybe loses a little bit of steam at one point towards the end of the third act. But I think it pulls it back together in the end and how it's dealing with incredible performances. I think that's kind of what's pushing it into that 10 for me, is that like the ensemble cast here is like really incredible. It's a very long movie, but I think it uses that time well. It's like over 2.5 hours long, but it uses the time well. Or just under 2.5, something like that. But yeah, so I'm going to put All That's Left of You in 10, but then tie it.
I have that one a little higher.
I figured you would have it.
Yeah. Hal and Harper, of course, is them going to Jerusalem where they have to.
But no, it is basically an incident with Hal and Harper is that there's the, you know, when they were younger, a traumatic incident happens when they are very young, and it's kind of This is by Cooper Raiff, who you guys know I love. He did Shithouse
Festival
and Cha-Cha
darling.
Real Smooth. He's a festival darling.
Right,
I love
he doesn't
him.
even get a specific one. That man is just festival darling.
He's so earnest, but it works for him, and it's
Yeah.
like no exception here. And it's kind of just the ways that like grief and trauma can both like stunt you in age while also making you have to grow up way too fast. And the way that they show that on screen, I think, is really special.
You can explain it, I think, because he's said it in interviews.
Okay, so yeah, they basically do a thing that when it's flashing back to kind of incidents around when they're in their childhood
younger,
after
yeah.
this thing happened, they actually show them as Lily Reinhart, as Cooper Raiff in their like little overalls and like their
Yeah.
kid clothing hanging around like the park and like the schools.
Pen 15.
Very Pen
it's smart.
15.
And I like how he's
is-
described it, that it's them being stunted at that point. So
Exactly,
it's almost
they're
like that's what they keep
stunted.
recalling.
It's
And
kind of like
it's so
Lily's
smart.
character had to grow up faster than she should have, and then, but it's still kind of stunted in areas in terms of interpersonal relationships and
Yeah.
trying to like figure out what she wants. Whereas he's kind of emotionally stunted himself in that like childlike way to
movie.
be able to
Yeah.
try to like ignore what's happening. And then the dad has had to like kind of very much like
Played by Mark
shrinking.
Ruffalo.
Yeah, played by Mark Ruffalo. He got a great cast for this. Lily
Insane.
Reinhart really shines, but it kind of reminded me a little bit of Shrinking, where we're kind of picking up with like the dad as a having to come out the other side of some of a
that makes
traumatic
sense. Yeah,
incident and kind of like he has to pick himself back together for his child and the ways he might have been failing his children. You see a lot of that here. It's like he's failing his children. He kind of has to come out the other side of that. And then how that even affects him down the line when he's with someone new, played by Betty Gilpin. I just thought it was really good. I think people are really going to resonate with this show. So obviously very different, but just that idea of kind of going through generations or like decades, it was just interesting ways to show how people deal with grief and trauma and how it, shockwaves through a family.
Yeah.
Do you know how many episodes?
It's 8.
And
the
that's
last,
the complete
and the last one's an
arc,
hour.
or-
That's a complete arc. It's
Nice.
one of those ones, it could end and it could continue if they wanted it to.
I think Zach and I still need to finish it, but from what we saw, I mean, he's still firing on all cylinders.
He's still firing.
Yeah.
I love that he's just willing to make himself look like a jackass or just be the petulant.
That's got to be the adjective, yeah.
Yeah,
You're pulling
he's
a
willing.
Cooper. A Cooper
He's
Raiff.
willing to, he's willing to show his worst traits, which I think is kind of important for filmmakers who want to be
easily.
earnest in their work and kind of honest in their work. It's
Yeah.
so easy to write yourself as great, or even, oh, I'm shitty, but in like a fun, nice, quirky way. Like, no, he's willing to let himself look like an asshole to be an asshole, and like authentically so. So I appreciate him.
And that's why his first movie was called
Shithouse.
Right, great
Yeah.
pick. I'm excited to finish it because
Yeah.
it's like a good one to wrap up with.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So Art and I haven't had a chance to finish Helen Harper, but
I got one more. I did hear him say this quote about them not like growing up or what the movie is about. It's like the pain we forget that we remember.
That's what I
Like-
mean, and you feel that.
I was like, Cooper, shut up, bro. Just
I
shut
know.
up. Just stop.
Yeah.
Just stop, bro.
Yeah. And honestly,
All right,
all that's
so-
left of you, you could say the same thing about that, you know?
And
Like,
to
I
give
was
it to
gonna
you,
say,
I know it's
I'll-
TV. I know it's TV, but he did say, I pitched it like a movie.
yeah.
I just knew that it needed to be longer, but
Which
technically
is-
I'm at a film festival with it. It's some
Yeah.
really interesting behind the scenes from the boy because he's willing to be open about it. So
love
some
it.
interesting stuff.
Yeah.
All right, so all that's left of you and Helen Harper dealing with some timeline hopping and generational trauma. It's a pair of picks for Amanda's number 10. We'll get into all that's left of you a little bit more in a bit. But my number 9, I'm going to go with Omaha, and I have a feeling this is going to appear a little
Me
bit later on a
too.
couple other lists.
Tied at number 9, baby.
Tied.
Let's go.
Whoa,
Is it a
look at
three-way
us.
tie?
You're at
Should we
9
host
too?
a podcast together?
You're lying.
No, I
I
swear
think
to
this is
God,
the
like not
first
even
time it's
changed.
ever happened that all three of us had it at the
It
exact
might
same
be.
Yeah.
spot.
We may have
This
had a
is one
number
of the
one at
only
one
ones
point.
that hasn't moved
But at
around.
number
It's one of the
9?
ones I was like, yeah, no, literally, number 9. I swear to God. I could,
That's
it's-
crazy.
You
All
can
right,
check my letterbox right now.
We went to go watch this. I told Zach, I was like, look, let's kill time. Let's go into Omaha. I know how this works. They don't let us in at the Ray. They don't let
They
us in
did
at
it.
the Ray. 20
John
minutes into the
McGarrett.
movie, I was like, nah, we're not going to start the movie late.
Yeah.
Let's
Shout
just
out
go
to
hang
Dale.
We-
Tried to get us in. Didn't work
Hey,
as
we didn't get to
promptly
see
as
John
we'd like.
Magaro. That's fine, right? We go to the Fresh Market. Guess who's there? John Magaro. So we got to talk to the boy, and he was also a person who really wants to make sure that this movie is out there, and for good reason. Y'all got to see it in the theater. Amanda was surprised. It was like the last movie I got. Dear Lord, take it away, Zach. Damn.
So Omaha, as you mentioned, stars John Magaro. I think this was also on our radar because it comes written by Robert Machoyan, who has made a couple films we really enjoy in The Killing of Two Lovers, as well as, what was that other movie he made?
Joseph,
that was
the
like the
Integrity
guy-
of Joseph Chambers. And he's got a short film at the festival. It was a documentary. Man's
Did
cooking.
you like it? Did you see it?
Amanda saw, or Alina had seen it. She said it was pretty good because it almost plays off just like the movies, where it's like it's a documentary, but he might as well have been captured because that's how he films his people. It's like he's documenting the actors. So, good stuff.
He's got a particular knack for capturing like an emotionally stunted man dealing with some trauma, right? Like these are men in the midst of conflict who don't know how to handle it within themselves in his movies. This one is directed by Cole Webley, and it's just a really interesting, melancholy tinged family road trip drama of sorts, where there's just this like air of mystery, but also this really like heart on your sleeve nature to the way that the scenes are assembled. And I think you'll just sort of be emotionally on the edge of your seat throughout this film. And there's this, lingering question over the whole movie because they are going on this trip, but they're not really letting you in to the reasons of it. And it does such a good job of imbuing in you the confused and unsettled nature of the children in the story who are having their lives disturbed in a way they don't quite understand. And there are moments of whimsy and moments of sadness, but overall there's just this kind of like melancholic confusion to the whole thing. Yeah. And when this movie really hits, it is so emotionally devastating. Shout out to Caitlin, who had to go home and take a nap after we watched this one.
I don't blame her. It's so heavy. Like if you look at kind of what the image is on Letterboxd right now, I know it's probably because she's looking at the sun, but the little girl is so good in this. She has this concerned look on her face. Yeah. And she'll just have that at so many different points of this movie because like she knows something is up, but doesn't know enough to know what it is. And then her little brother...
Moving. Right? Because they're moving and she's seeing the patterns of like, oh, we're doing this again, and you're seeing it from her perspective. It's smart.
It's not just moving. It's literally like getting woken up in the morning and being like, if the house is burning down, what would you grab? Like, and it's Twilight and a DS and a picture of her mom. It's hilarious, but it's also like, really, you guys are like, you're not even going to take more. Why didn't you prep this yesterday? Like, what is happening? And it's like the eviction notice is there, the cops waiting to get them out. Like, it's all so frantic while also being so like, not at the same time. Yeah,
there's just this sense of what a guy at the end of his rope making kind of rash decisions because he doesn't really have the room.
Where do you go, right? What's the
game
plan?
The room for more thought or more.
He looked worse than Patrick Mahomes. His eyes were crazy, not knowing what to call.
He kind of looked worse than Rose Byrne in If I Had Legs. It's because you get that same level of like, I don't know what's happening, but without that frantic chaos that could have been thrown into this, it is still so. It's clearly
desperation.
It's desperation. He is so he's on a mission. They're getting somewhere. They need to get there fast, but it's still just kind of like a little bit slow, a little bit like we're going to take a moment to go here.
And beautiful.
It's
like
beautiful.
These assholes. It looks beautiful. We did part of the drive back home because we passed by there, and it's like, we know these shots. The sunset coming down. There's like a beauty to it that makes it bittersweet. Yeah, it's like the way that it builds up. It's also only 83 minutes, so it stays with you.
Yeah.
It really surprised me. I thought all the performances were really good. And the kid, he just had some one-liners that really got me.
Oh, yeah, Wyatt.
I don't want to spoil too many, but there's one specific scene when it comes to like him having to tell his sister things like, and you could tell that he's just mimicking what his dad would have said, complaining about the price of the dog food. It's $20. He killed me with those little moments. But overall, fantastic film.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All love to Dylan O'Brien, who won the Special Jury Acting Award, but I kind of feel like John Magaro took it for me. That was the most emotionally affecting performance I saw there, as well as Molly Bell Wright, who
She was so
is probably
good.
the best juvenile performance we saw at the festival.
Easily,
Yeah.
no, for sure.
It's
Best
like there's like
up-and-comer.
moments without spoiling anything that it's just kind of like the way that kids who don't fully understand what's going on will start internalizing. Like, if your parents get divorced, you blame yourself, even
Yeah.
if it has nothing to do with you. It's the way she'll start begging. She'll be like, no, I'm so
Oh,
sorry. And
yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
no, that's so sad.
Yeah.
That's even sadder. That takes a sad situation and makes it like a million times worse.
Yeah.
And she delivers those lines, and she's like 9. She's not, like, I don't know if
Like,
she's actually 9 in real life, but in the movie.
How old was the girl from After Sun?
A bit
She
older
was
than
12,
this.
12 when she
Yeah.
filmed
Yeah.
After Sun, 12 or 13.
They had this girl observing more things than she did in that movie. I was like, dude,
I
this
know.
is a rough thing to have to carry.
Yeah.
It surprises me how you can get a child actor into that headspace. And
That's
they
a
did it.
common debate as to whether or not it's even ethical to do
Right.
so.
Well, and again, The Long Valley was the short that Robert ended up making as well. So I wonder how
Right.
much of it is hopefully finding a good way to get them there.
Yeah,
And then
hopefully.
documenting it before, kind of like they do with horror movies and the such. But Omaha,
Absolutely.
just a resounding, I don't want to give it thumbs up, but a resounding recommendation. It will
Yeah.
leave
Yeah.
you shaking
It'll
once those
leave you
credits roll.
shaking. This is what I
I
would
don't think
consider to be
credits
the
have hit me as hard.
third Americana movie, a little bit less
Train
traditional
Dreams,
way. Train
Rebuilding,
Dreams, Rebuilding,
Omaha.
and Omaha. I'm sure there's more. This one is just in a different way in terms of like the way that America
We might
can
find some more,
change
yeah.
the shifting landscape of what people go through based on different world events and different things happening, and like politics of different areas. It just, I don't know. It's a little bit more of an outlier than when I would say Rebuilding, but it still kind of just feels like modern American
Yeah.
issues that people couldn't even
Sunfish
anticipate.
too, I guess, if you want to.
It can kind of stay over there.
Lord North, I can stay over there.
All right,
But no,
Omaha.
solid. Wow, all 9.
A triple
Yeah.
endorsed bummer.
Yeah.
All 9s across the board.
Literally.
At our 9, but it's a big yes from all of us. Omaha, very good.
yeah.
Is it picked up?
Not yet. I have to imagine someplace like a Bleecker Street picks this up or something.
Yeah.
Really affecting movie. Anyway, I'll take it back since we all had
Yeah.
Omaha at number 9. My number 8 is a movie we just recorded a review about. I have Andrew On's delightful The Wedding Banquet at number 8 because this movie made me
Oh my
laugh.
God, me too. No, I'm joking.
that'd be a bit.
that
That'd be
would
good.
be a good bit. That'd be a good bit. Sorry. Anyway.
No, just a really sweet romantic comedy
Yeah.
about people getting along and overcoming their differences and being nice to each other.
It's an easy crowd
Despite-
pleaser.
Yeah, a big crowd pleaser. And I just thought it was really funny and really charming. We talked about it more and in more depth in our review. And I'll leave it at that. That's my number 8.
Sorry,
Art,
Zach.
what do you have at number 8 on your top 10?
I was fighting between, two of these U.S. dramatic ones. I'm going to go with Ricky at my number 8. A movie
okay.
that I've been anticipating since I saw the short. I really like what he brought to it. Also, I believe titled Ricky. And that Ricky is also in this movie as well.
Nice.
But they replaced him with Stefan James as the lead character, and I think he is one of the best actors we have working. Cheryl Lee Ralph plays his PO, and
Yeah.
it's about a man who's coming out of prison after 15, a majority of his life. So really the whole bit is that it's a coming of age story for a guy who never got to grow up. He knows no social media. He has no love, nothing. He is learning everything from scratch at his grown man age. And what I really liked about it is that you get introduced to characters who, maybe set our main character back, but it's for reasons that I felt kind of made sense when someone says something to another person. It showcases to you how people get into the troubles that they get into, and how it's a hole that it's very difficult to get out. I thought the Q&A really enlightened that for some people, because there's a character he interacts with at his the circle group that he goes with, and a lot of people did not like her until she spoke about it. And then the lady next to me was like, oh, okay, I guess that makes more sense. And it's this idea of it really is a village. It needs to be a village to help someone like Ricky after all those years of being out. Because you're not just catching up on money or whatever. You're catching up on trying to be a part of the modern world again when everything has moved right past you. But then also the life experience you don't have. You've only been in jail. I thought the performances were really well done. The mother character, I want to make sure I shout her out, especially the actress. I thought she was very good, especially when it comes to raising what's his name. The brother was also very good. I don't see
Yeah.
mom on here. I want to say it's Simbi Kali. She had a fantastic quote outside of a convenience store. Titus Welliver, who I know from Lost, my man comes in and he's just a side character who kind of helps him out. He's got a very funny line dealing with his wife. Love it. I'm gonna be quoting that one for years for sure. But overall, I thought Ricky was an exceptional U.S. dramatic movie. Really good performances and an interesting coming of age tale.
And shout out to the director behind it as well, Rashad Frett, who I think did an excellent job telling this story. You know, similar to Omaha in some ways. This is sort of about what happens to a man in really desperate circumstances, and because of the things that you mentioned about his parole and his having experienced most of his life from behind prison bars, he is a man with very few options who is forced by his circumstances to walk a tightrope. Yeah. And I think it's an incredibly empathetic portrait of what that experience is like.
Exactly.
And one that, like, you can't help but feel vicariously tense for experiencing. It's another quite sad one, but I do think there's some moments of hope in how he tells the story.
A lot of these movies are about like the system, like people being incarcerated and what the Alabama solution and such. Mm-hmm. This is about a personal story. How can you focus on the personal side of someone trying to make it out with all that weighing on them? Pretty good.
This is tragically the only U.S. dramatic I didn't catch because I forgot about it because you guys all saw it together.
Yeah, we saw it.
Literally, as I'm going through the thing, because it was also kind of in the middle of the screener things, it's like 11:59 and I see it and it won't let me click on it.
Damn.
It was dead. I couldn't watch it. So I was like, fuck. I knew there was one I was forgetting. It was just one of those ones that kind of like, because no one was saying, oh, have you caught Ricky yet? Because you guys all caught it at the same time. So it was just like totally, that was my bad. But
hopefully it gets really, I don't think it won anything, but
I might reach out. Maybe they'll send me a link.
They should. I mean, they were all online, but at my
Twinless
number 8,
wouldn't.
I got Ricky.
Nice.
All right, Amanda, what do you have at 8?
I think this is probably going to be higher on both of your guys' lists, but I think for now I'm going to put If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You. We also just filmed an entire review on this, so it may or may not be out right now, but we can either, do you want me to talk about it now or do you want to wait to talk about it?
We can kick it on to later in the list.
Cool.
Once,
so that's my 8.
Great. I guess that means we're back at me for my number 7, which is The Perfect Neighbor. Do either of you have this in your top 10s?
No, it's close. Art didn't put any docs on this, I don't
because
think.
I didn't put any docs, Perfect Neighbor is my 9th document. It's in my top 10 docs for sure.
It's my highest rated doc of the ones I saw. So.
It's a crazy doc.
I thought this one was incredibly riveting. This is the story of how a minor disagreement between neighbors over the course of a couple of years balloons into a situation in which one shoots the other. This is in some ways about stand your ground laws, and in other ways it's about America's declining sense of community and just the way that certain situations have these really deadly consequences. And I think the thing that is most remarkable about this story is that through these continued calls to the police to settle these disputes between neighbors, there are all of these just like objective cameras floating around through body cam footage. So the film chooses to deliver its story without real commentary, just kind of assembling pieces of the story in the aftermath for you. And you just get the bubbling tension of it all. Like it is really incredible how you see the situation spin out of control and progress in this way, in a way where the end feels both like inevitable and like the worst situation possible, right? Like it is really, really compellingly put together and emotionally devastating for the unflinching way that it approaches certain aspects of the story, particularly the most upsetting aspects of it. But I think it is like a really strong look at a particular issue, right? The consequences of this law and how it actually plays out for real people, not in the hypothetical, but how it actually impacts not just the people involved, but the people around it. For the way that the film just can do that and give you this sense of community, I thought it was really, really remarkably done.
Yeah, I also think they really lucked out in finding, not lucked out, this sounds terrible, but they do find one that at least in as satisfying a conclusion as this story could have,
right,
comparatively to other ones where everyone's just left wondering, like, what the hell happened and what is happening on the other end. Like, at least when it's done, you can say, okay, at least they handled this right.
It's not a happy ending, but it is an ending that offers at least some form of retribution or redemption.
Yes,
that these stories often don't have.
No.
But it is something that the documentary acknowledges as well. So yeah, I thought this was really strong. This is actually one of the few documentaries that I think has already sold in that Netflix.
It's not surprising. This is going to do so well. This is like literally people watch
that
hours.
That is a Sundance doc, holies.
Yeah, but
or
people
Netflix doc,
because people watch hours of this content on YouTube. I've gone through things where I literally watch people just kind of like, here's interview footage of this person who killed a bunch of people in Canada, and I'm just watching full interviews. People love this. So this is a nice way to both make it so that it doesn't feel so much like a voyeuristic act of watching somebody do something horrible. They've put it together in a way that's like has a purpose, is making a statement, and then at the end actually does take the time to kind of like highlight how victims, people affected by it directly, are kind of like thriving now as much as they can in the wake of what happened. So I do think it's like the most heightened form of what you could get on some of those YouTube videos. So I do mean that complimentary. It's going to do great on
with
Netflix.
A sense of like editorial voice too.
Yes.
No, the edit in here is you're cutting from Ring cameras to body cam footage. You never get confused anywhere. The editing is too good in this movie. And on top of just it all being archives, it reminded me a little bit of the Oscar-nominated Incident. I'm telling you guys that one
we gotta watch
is
it,
like another one where it's just edited to perfection. No narration. Like, that takes so much to be able to tell that story through that way. And then I come to find out that the director knew the people involved. And it was because of that connection that they took it a lot more serious, and I believe doesn't feel exploitative.
Yes,
it feels
that's
like
what I was getting at.
One of the producers of the film was the cousin of the mother of the woman who ends up getting shot. So there is that like actual familial connection to it.
Good.
That,
I think that's important for
gives
this.
it a real personal. Yeah, it makes it very personal and means that there's like an investment in this story. It's not just there to be exploited.
Yeah. This also had that NC-17 kind of rating going into it. It had that like, big warning thing, and rightfully so. And Netflix, they don't stop you. You can play anything on Netflix.
That's what I mean. Yeah, they're golden.
One of the great docs that we got from this year is just an embarrassment of riches from it. Sad, but very poignant. It's gonna do numbers for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
People are gonna view it.
Art, can you cheer us up with your pick for number 7?
Yeah, so I put Alabama Solution. No, I'm just kidding. And number 7. I've been going, one of these is going to be 7, one of these is going to be 6. I really don't know right now. I'm going at number 7, Twinless. It is a movie that I find to be very enjoyable. I think the plot is very interesting. I can't wait to rewatch it because I think a lot of the scenes will play differently. And we have a whole video out for it. So definitely go discuss that.
Yeah, we got a whole review on Twinless as well, so you can hear us talk about it in more detail.
But it's about twins grieving. For those of you who may only see this one, it's twins grieving, coming into a support group, and how you survive that grief.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the audience award winner for U.S. Dramatic as well.
Yeah,
and acting too.
It'll be higher for me.
Nice, Amanda. Before we get to Twinless, what do you have at number 7?
Man, I keep moving things around. I swear my 7 has bounced from like 3 to 7 now, but that's just how like I feel like literally it's just when I think, because some of them are just like they're so tonally different, and I just don't know. And like we've been talking about a lot of these movies today, so it's moving them up the ranks. But for now, maybe these will change on rewatch. I think I'm gonna go with Together at 7.
Okay.
Which we do still have a full video about. This could be higher. I had a ton of fun with this, and like I said, originally this was in my like 3rd position. So that's just to tell you how close a lot of these are.
10. It cleared the top 10.
These movies for me, until we get to like my number 1, they could all kind of move around depending on my mood.
That's 1 through 4 for me.
It's hard. So I'm going Together here though. We did already talk about it, but yeah, we've talked about it a lot when Art mentioned it as his. So we'll just leave it.
What stood out for you? What's the one thing to get people's butts in seats on August, whatever date?
Man, there's this one hallway scene that everybody loves, but there's this like a moment that's before that where like somebody's just in an office and like something happens and it's just like, you just hear shuffling feet and it's like, oh my God, it's like creepy. It actually creeped me out and I love it. I was like, oh God. But I just think it's good. I guess the thing with Together is like, I like it a lot, but then there's like this whole aspect of it that's introduced and I'm like, but I want to know everything about that. And you're giving me so little about it, but I want everything about it. Yeah. Give me a sequel.
For
like
Together.
Like
they'll put it there. Yeah.
Like actually though, they could, and I'd take it. I'd take it. I just think it's really good. Again, I think the way we mentioned it, it's just like that idea of like, it's just a really good idea. If you've been in a relationship with someone for a very long time, I think this is a good movie to watch, especially if you're someone who may start getting those like, is this like, what is my life? Is it turning out the way I hoped it would? This or that? Like, it's a good one.
Just the way in which the nature of the horror is really based on being a couple, being together, is so cool and unique to this film. Yeah.
And while they don't get into all the background stuff, it feels so real.
It does feel real. And that's almost why I'm okay with it not fleshing it out, because I'm like, it would make sense if this was really happening. You could only find out so much about it. That's what I mean. You could only make so much. Like there's like the opening scene to this is also like really cool. It feels very like The Thing. It has a moment where I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, are we in, like Carpenter stuff here? Like a lot of people are throwing around like Cronenberg, obviously, but like first thought was very much Carpenter with The Thing for certain things. And then it's just kind of, you're waiting for that to be introduced more. Easy recommend. It's going to play very well.
Body horror year.
Dude, people are,
even the good. Super Bowl commercials were crazy.
It's unique body horror too. It's not just body horror for the sake of doing something. It's like they're using it in very unique ways. Yeah. So Together.
They're visually cool and it goes with the themes of the story, which is all you need.
That's the thing.
Nice. All right, Together, number 7 on Amanda's list, 10 on Arturo's, and in my honorable mentions. We all liked it. I'm going to go with my number 6 next, which is another video that we've got a full review on. It is Rebuilding, the really tender-hearted, gentle film starring Josh O'Connor about a rancher who is forced to start over after his family's ranch burns in a wildfire. I just thought that the way this movie handles the wake of this devastation with so much warmth and with a focus on hope and community in a way that doesn't ever really come across as cheesy or overly sentimental, it was really, really special and just struck a chord with me. I was on the verge of tears the entire time watching it. It's a really beautifully done film from Max Walker Silverman, and special small movie that I hope people don't overlook when they get a chance to see it. So I got Rebuilding at number 6 on my list. Arturo, what's number 6 on yours?
Plainclothes. We saved this one to come see together as a group, and
it's good.
It is so short. I thought it was a very clever film. It's about an undercover officer who sets up dudes to like come out so that they could arrest them.
Yeah. It's not just to come out; it's to specifically expose themselves.
Expose yourself
there
in
was, like,
public. Yeah,
because there was it was very much the gay panic era where they specifically were putting out that idea: gay men are specifically degenerates. So you're trying to like prove that they're a danger to children by getting them to expose themselves to other grown men. And getting them on public indecency charges, not even getting them on the pedophilia charges that they're claiming to be going at people for.
Yeah, so there's a lot of backstory that comes with it. And with it being in that time period, it's also visually told in this way where whenever the character is feeling guilt, you cut to this VHS perspective.
Yes.
So it feels very alive in the sense of you being from the POV of our main guy who's struggling with his own internal stuff. Yeah. He also has a father that he's grieving and whatever past things may have been there. But it's really that performance with his mom and the things that are unspoken that I thought were like. So good. I think this is going to be a better film when I rewatch it. Like,
I agree.
We were catching this very tired at the end of the fest. We're all zoned in on it.
Dude, yeah.
But I feel like on a bigger screen with more time with this story, he was firing on all cylinders. Yeah. I love the ending. I think the ending is so good.
I agree.
This one ensemble cast, which I think.
I can agree.
I'm trying to think of some other ones, but. I can see it.
There's some other ones I think are technically better for how
Better
like
ensembles, maybe, yeah.
individual this feels, but there's nobody in this cast that I feel like wasn't like perfect.
Doesn't serve a purpose.
Doesn't serve
from
a
the
purpose, and I think
uncle
that's important. Yeah. Oh my
to,
god.
yeah, all these different things that happen. I don't know, I
was
really liked
good.
it. Shout out Tom Blythe. He gave a
Yeah.
very good performance in this one as
Very
well.
good.
You
Yeah.
really see the anguish in his eyes from, what is his personal life to what is his work.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it a lot. Plainclothes.
Yeah. Oh, you guys.
I was really struck by how impressionistic this film was at times. How,
Yeah.
like, oftentimes it would go into these montages of different images that both were within the context of the scene and completely out of context, and it just was really like almost like about the emotion that they're conveying more so than the literal realism of some of those moments.
Yeah.
Really interesting and more experimental than I anticipated.
Yeah.
Given that it's not one of the movies
US
that's in the next
dramatic, yeah.
section. It's more
Yeah.
US dramatic.
I agree.
But yeah, a really beautifully assembled film. For sure.
I think I remember him
Yeah.
saying specifically that the VHS was to be the cop tapes.
Yeah,
so
it's supposed to be you're seeing
So
your
he's seeing his through the surveillance of a cop.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah,
I don't
and
know, I
that's
think
why
it's
when
very smart.
it hits a certain climax, like a certain moment where
Climate,
where he kind of becomes a little bit more involved in something, and then thinks he's seeing something he's not, and like I feel like
Very,
it starts
very good.
colliding.
Yeah.
This is one of those ones that honestly it should probably be in my top 10, and it might have if I'd seen it with a crowd like in theaters. And maybe it's just like at this point in the festival, most of my decisions had kind of been made, but it is very close. It's like my 11. It's really swirling in there because I was really excited for this one. I'm very bummed that I ended up having to go see Opus because I couldn't get into the premiere of Opus and I had to give up my ticket for Plainclothes. That sucked. But I was just really moved by this. The performances are really good. I think it does really speak what seems to be authentically to a period of culture here where so many people still had to kind of conceal this aspect of themselves and what that means in terms of creating bonds.
they really built that world, yeah.
They really built the world out. And I agree. I love the ending. I thought the ending was like, I was like, oh, shit. No.
Like
it's...
I'm looking at my top 5 U.S. dramatic. It's second. Y'all already know what number 1 is going to be, but that surprised me. Like that, I did not think because I had that a lot lower.
It's good.
Yeah, well, we'll get into honorables and everything else, but Plainclothes
Yeah.
coming in right there.
It's very good.
All right, so Plainclothes makes number 6 on Art's top 10 of Sundance. Amanda, what just missed your top 5 with number 6?
It's so hard. I think I'm going to go with Ballad of Wallis Island.
All
and
right.
again, this could be further up. It's one of, like I said, we're getting into that area.
Is it further up for you, Art?
Yeah, maybe too high, but yeah.
That's fair. I have a couple of those. Do we wait?
Yeah, let's maybe wait a little bit.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure.
Let's do it. Where do we do it?
Do you have a favorite line from Sir Charles?
Oh my God. I do like the fucking Judy Drench.
Dame Judy. It's so
Dame
dumb.
Judi
Like you
Dench.
literally can't. You have to be there. It's
have
lines
to
where
be
you
there.
have to be there.
Because you have to understand the whole physicality of the character. We do have a
but
full
I'm-
video on it. We can talk about it a little bit more. But I was just very moved by this character who he like really works his way into your heart. I like how it's dealing with grief and how it forces someone to grow around that person and be a better person because of this person that he can't deny, even though he's so incredibly annoyed by him.
Yeah.
Just incredible movie that I'm
Surprise hit
very
for me.
excited to revisit. Yeah.
Oh, glad I made you top. Ballad of Wallis Island, and we haven't even seen the short, but it's
Yeah,
out there as
fair.
well.
Short with the same
Some-
two leads, just minus
Somehow-
Carey Mulligan.
Yeah, the title's 3 times as long.
Yeah, it is.
All right, so Ballad of Wallis Island, number 6 on Amanda's list. I'll start my top 5 out with Train Dreams, the movie that was picked
Nice.
up by Netflix, the really beautiful film from Clint
Me
Bentley.
too.
Or you got a number 4?
That's my
both
4.
of you got a
It's our
number
number
4.
4s, bro.
That's my
Have
4.
to.
Man,
Have
see, if I
to.
just didn't put documentaries on my top 10, this would be number 4 for me as well.
Yeah.
No, it was pretty good. Go, take it away.
I mean,
Yeah, let's
it
just do
is
it now.
such a it's such a poetic movie and so like beautiful in the way that it gives you a picture of the full arc of this man's life. I just love the sort of intimate perspective it has on the country changing at this time, at the turn of the 18th to 19th century, or 19th to 20th, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
It is so like gorgeous in its scope, in its ambition. I was really wowed by how cinematic it all was.
No, it's very beautiful. We deemed it the best cinematography of the fest.
Yeah.
For all you haters of what's his name out there, no, this will bring you back. A very, very subtle performance that carries a lot with it. Good supporting cast as well.
Yeah.
We are both happy that Netflix has it, so it will be out there, but we also wish that you could catch it at a theater because Zach caught it first, and he said, y'all have to catch it.
Yeah.
And on that final day, I made sure to go out there in my favorite theater.
Yeah,
and
we
was
got it.
worth
Me and Art.
It was so
Melina.
beautiful.
It's so beautiful.
It is such a good movie in terms of, I've been calling it, it's the millennial from the turn of the century 100 years ago. What are you going through when they're inventing things? When you've worked so hard on something only for new technology to come in. It's so good.
Yeah.
We forgot to mention a scene that we won't spoil, but it has to do with a disagreement that happens.
Oh, yeah.
Literally is a short film. It is a short clip that has nothing else to do with the movie other than giving you the context of what it was like back in the day.
What it was
it's
like.
beautiful.
Because there's just so many moments in this movie that are so like surprising and human and interesting and
Very smart.
riddled with like text about the culture and the time.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting historical document, but not one that feels like stuffy or removed. It really does feel personal and alive.
Yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
like the end of the past world as we enter the modern world. It's like the end of the Western to a degree
It is,
of what you're seeing with these people. No, I like it more and more and more.
No, me too. Me too.
It is. It's my four, but like I said, my top four. I wouldn't. This is one where I will say 100% if I catch this again, it might go higher.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, like there are always movies that move around. Like I definitely underrated. I saw the TV Glow and A Different Man when I saw them at Sundance last year, and those movies just grew on me. This one is probably in that category as well. Like there's a moment that I won't get into too much details over because I don't want to spoil it, where he's looking inside a shop window, and I just the shock it gave me, I feel like is similar to the disconnected feeling this character must have been feeling in the moment.
Yeah.
And it's just something really incredible about a movie that has the ability to do something like that.
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
Incredible movie. Train Dreams, my number 5. Amanda's number 4. Arturo's number 4. Let's stick with number 5 though and go back to Arturo. What do you have at 5 on your top 10?
You didn't get to say it, but I do like your comparison of Boyhood for Train Dreams in terms of it not necessarily being,
and
the
we
childhood.
talked about that and more in our extended
longer
review
video
of Train Dreams. Yeah.
But there was another movie that also quoted and name dropped it as an influence. All That's Left of You. She came out and said that she really saw it like Boyhood, but that she wanted it to be a family. And to be honest with you, I don't think she even realizes, no, there is one character. It's the boy at the beginning who becomes the father who has to oversee his son. He is the boyhood.
Yeah.
And Amanda had this one in her top
10.
as well.
Yeah, 10.
This director, actress, has worked on a lot of these movies from Amrika a while back, had done a lot of these films dealing with her heritage or culture. And in particular here, it's looking back to see how much Palestine has changed. And I think to see it from the point of view of a family, to see how things have grown, I think is very profound. I had this one really hyped. I don't think it's a masterpiece. I do think sometimes her hand is a little too deft when it comes to some scenes.
I didn't realize it was her until this exact moment.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah, she is the director also playing the woman
and now that
who
makes
pretty
some
much
things
begins
make
the scene.
sense.
There you
There's
go. Yeah.
one character where it started losing it at one point. I was like, okay, now I feel like you're losing a little bit of that.
And then you realize how she's really telling the story.
Get it. Yeah. So I get it.
But no, I think it's a really good drama. I think it really showcases the setting very well. And there's little nuances about a person, missing home, understanding what it meant to their father, their forefathers, and wondering how much of you still remains when you've been pushed out.
Yeah.
We always quote, I think, a big cinematic thing that's gone even into bigger culture is how you say 3. We all know that one. We see that meme. There's a scene in here that plays off of language about what a person would know if they were really from the region.
Yeah.
And this was one of many movies as we were at Sundance talking about, should Sundance remain in the place where it was, incepted? Is it a part of its DNA? And it's interesting to play a movie like this and then offer up Cincinnati. Look, I think this is a movie that's going to resonate with a lot of people, and I see it going very far. I have it in my top 5 before it enters my top 4 that can really go everywhere. But all that's left of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, a really impactful film, and I feel like we're getting more films that find interesting ways to tackle the idea of generational traumas and the legacies of violence and the nuances within that, and applying those ideas particularly to generations of Palestinian families. It's really smart and really profound, and it's a really strong film. Art's number 5. Amanda had it at 10, and I got it in my honorable mentions as well. All that's left of you.
I think he played the older husband. Again, all these performances. I hate
what I mean. This is my ensemble.
To get to.
This is my ensemble.
Oh, okay.
For me, I think.
Yeah. Damn, you're right. No,
It's
because he's acting alongside the kid too. And the kid has a line that he tells him where I was like, that's worse. I don't know, bro. That's worse than what you almost prevented from happening.
Yeah. It's wild.
It's a heavy movie. You guys started the day off with this one.
We did.
Yeah, that was my biggest hesitation of watching it when I did. It's like, do you really want to take this on at 9:30 in the morning?
But I still think they managed to find a way to make it like feel beautiful at the end, and like there was a legacy lasting. I really do like a direction that it took.
Persevere,
in terms of a character. And just something that happens. Again, I do feel like there's one character that I was like, I just don't know if they'd act like that. But, I don't know. Maybe they would. I actually don't know.
Send me in the private chat. I'm curious.
I will. I'll let you.
Overall, all that's left of you hasn't been picked up?
I'm just
going to stop asking.
Probably not, because none of these get picked up, sadly.
Yeah. Go to Sundance next year if you're watching.
Yeah. It'll get out for sure.
Yeah.
But
hey, well, this is why we're shouting them out, hoping that they do get picked up. Keep it on your watch list.
All right, Amanda, what do you have at number 5 on your top 10?
I feel like it's going to have to be higher on maybe both of your list, or maybe at least Zach's, I think. But I'm going to go with Lurker at 5.
I got it higher.
You got it higher?
I have it at 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I have it at 3.
Do you want to do it now? Because we already did
let's
our
go.
Yeah, because
fours.
I got it at 3 as well, so we might as
we've already done the 4.
And we have a whole video for it as well, but any other stuff that came out from Lurker.
Yeah, so honestly, really funny, the director just followed me on Instagram, so that's...
Hey, shout out Alex Russell.
We could probably get him on for an interview then.
Be careful, he might be lurking.
He might be lurking. I hope.
He might be
I'll say
lurking.
nice things. Lurker was one of the ones I was most excited to going in because I was so interested in the premise of somebody who like infiltrates a celebrity's life
in modern day
by lying, and I just hustling. It is hustling, but it's like it's creepy. And I've told this story, but it is literally like I've seen people do this with lower scale celebrities where they literally were instructing other people. They made an instructional video on how people could stalk people like Ninja or Scump or just other like big esports players at hotel lobbies where they're going to be staying. Pretend you don't know who they are, strike up a conversation with them, ask them why they're there, if they play Call of Duty or if they're on Twitch, and they'd be like, oh, what's your at? I'll follow you. So then that person feels...
What? I gotta try that. What was step 3? I gotta try this.
So we're getting there. Then you gotta unfollow them on everything. Then be like, oh, what's your at? I'll follow you, so that they feel disarmed. Like, oh my god, this person actually doesn't know who I am. And sometimes you can see right through it. A lot of people would see right through it. I actually do feel like in Lurker, I think he actually overplayed his hand in that opening scene. That somebody probably would have seen through it. But
what works for me is following people on Letterboxd, deleting my account, and then refollowing them. That usually
that
works for me.
For sure.
But in Lurker, it's a little bit more effective.
It is, but yeah, so I've just seen people do this, so I know it's like an idea that's out there, and I'm sure people try it all the time, and probably people that we don't know have probably made very successful careers doing it because people are so often wary of anybody who's familiar with them. You always want to keep people at arm's length. Yeah. It's that idea of fan versus supporter, or just goes out.
Right. And no, I feel like we see low-key versions of this all the time in the film space where lots of cinephiles or just like stans will go to Q&A screenings or whatever and get a picture with their favorite celebrity and be like, my friend who is so nice to me, even though you just have a picture together. But there's just this
I hang out with my friends through invites.
Me and Anne Hathaway didn't get the picture, but like we were really good friends. We had a really nice 2-minute conversation.
You shared the dance floor together?
Of course.
Yes.
But it's interesting.
It's just this like privilege of being in the special place or around the special people, or that feeling like the sunlight on your skin when you receive attention from someone who is so beloved.
Yeah.
And this film really gets at that intoxicating nature of it, the desire to place yourself in a more powerful sphere.
Yeah.
Not just because necessarily like it's exciting to be within the spectrum of fame, but
why
also
can't it
in
be
some
you?
ways, and also just like, is that what it takes to break through in a punishing industry like the entertainment industry, right? Like,
Hey, it has the balls to ask that. Yeah, I like that.
yeah,
It does, yeah.
like sometimes it is about who you know,
Yeah,
whether or not you
absolutely.
know them through
Authentic means.
authentic means, exactly. So it asks a lot of really fascinating questions, and it does so in a really entertaining package. It's a funny movie. It's very unexpected. It's full of twists. It's increasingly tense as it goes along. I think there's a lot to really enjoy about this film, and it's a movie that, despite our high expectations, I think it lived up to them.
I agree.
Because of how crazy it goes and
But it
the
also
power
doesn't go
dynamics.
crazy in a way that I would have expected it to, that all of these things tend to always escalate to their most extreme.
They could have been a little goofy.
Right.
Yeah.
This escalates to a way that still felt realistic, in a way that you're
Yeah.
like, oh my God, that's
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
scarier, actually.
Felt
What's
realer
happening?
than like it doesn't like go
Yeah,
crazy
really.
like the third act of The Substance or something.
That's what I
right?
mean.
Like
And
it feels
Yeah,
of
'cause
our
there's,
reality.
Yeah, because it's very interesting that you get the two sides of the like, I want to feel that basking glory. I
The
feel like I
creator
have things
versus
to offer.
a fan. Yeah.
The creator versus fan, but then also the other side of what happens when you then become so big that do you even know who you can trust anymore? Do you know who you can believe? Do you know who you can have an authentic relationship with or connection to?
But when you're as big, are you the lurker too? Are you manipulating the people around you?
Well, yeah, because it also
The power
deals
dynamics
with
that they play
the
with this
power
movie is
dynamics
so
of-
fascinating.
And then, but that's the other thing too, because sometimes it's all like you could literally in your mind be like, I'm really not trying to exercise any power, but not realizing inherently that you do unintentionally, you have more power in a certain situation, whether
Smart
you.
ass movie, bro.
It's very
Yeah,
smart,
it's so
and it's
good.
like it's yeah, and I don't think it's not overly harsh or kind to anybody. It shows the ups and the downs of both sides. And again, it's a little bit like this, not like The Substance, but you know how like The Substance, it's like we all know that the beauty standards and the beauty industry is like fucked, but we all fall into it anyway.
Yeah.
It's hard not to. This is kind of like we all know that celebrities are just like the rest of us, but we still see them and we get excited and we wish we could be more like them. And it's intoxicating, as Zach said, you know?
It's the dude's Ingrid Goes West, in where he's trying to make it all the way to the top. I think the way they play with it towards the second half, especially when you
Yeah.
have the friends who are coming in and how they play
Yeah.
off of that.
Yeah.
Shout out Zach Fox for a lot of the thriller elements that the movie's relying on. This man killed it. Even when
Yeah.
he's not saying lines, it's honestly I laughed the most when it cuts to his reactions.
Yes, they're so good.
Archie Madekue was also
Yeah.
incredible in this movie. I know we were talking about the people in the longer review in terms of like who was working on the music behind the scenes.
Yeah,
and
the music was good.
You know, the jingles that they have in there are fantastic.
Good.
So I'm excited to see how they roll out with
Yeah.
this movie.
The
Where it
one
goes.
other thing I'll mention is we all felt that the person who was actually doing the interview on stage kind of fundamentally misunderstood something, and that this
To a degree.
person had to fake it. They didn't actually have talent. That's actually the opposite, is that this guy, as he's infiltrating, did have a lot of genuine talent and things to offer. And that's what ends up making the movie so striking by the end. And when it starts kind of like, you know, flipping things in a direction that you might not have expected it to go, actually. So it is just kind of important to mention that, I think at least, that like the guy is actually talented and could have earned his spot in a different way, but this is what he had to do. And like
Shout out
literally, there's a
Havana.
line in the movie that, Havana, there's also Havana Rose Liu is in this, and she literally says the line, if you want to stick around, make yourself useful. And that's what he does.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I think we would love to dive into more details about with this
Yeah.
movie. So we'll probably save a longer, fuller discussion for whenever this movie comes out.
Yes.
Thankfully,
Stop.
movie picked up
Oh,
Lurker.
Ruby!
So
Let's
one of the
go.
movie,
And,
not just
They plan to put
that
out
it
the
got
songs.
picked up. There we go. And it's not just great that It got picked up. It got picked up by a distributor that I think we're all pretty excited with, that did a really great job handling the release of The Substance, a movie that did far better than most people expected it to. So hopefully they're able to give Lurker a similar treatment, although I would be really surprised if this one makes its way into the Oscars discussions. Not that it's not quality, just not the kind of movie that I expect them to normally reward.
It already got picked up for Berlin, so I'm curious.
Ooh, right.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
It's a good sign for it,
anyway,
honestly.
Lurker, great movie. Amanda's got it at number 5. Art's got it at number 3. I've got it at number 3 as well. We found out that both of y'all had Train Dreams at number 4. Number 4 on my list. I'm going to go with Predators. I think this is the best documentary that I saw at this year's Sundance Film Festival, directed by David Ossett. It is
up there.
Really striking look at the series To Catch a Predator, as well as the legacy that show has left behind. And it's told in different parts, first taking a look at the production of that show, and then sort of looking at the imitators of it, as well as just diving deeper into our general fascination with programs like this, with the idea of exploiting these moments for entertainment. And the ways in which the filmmaker is able to take the story and able to kind of, I think, both needle his subjects and the audience a little bit as well. Like, kind of question why you are watching this documentary in the first place. I found to be like profound and brilliant and thought-provoking.
Yeah, it is.
There's just some like mic drop moments that he has in the final interview of this film that are really incredible bits of documentary filmmaking. It's not necessarily like the splashiest documentary or the most jam-packed, fast-moving bit that you'll see here, but I just found its willingness to stare straight onto some of these questions to be really brave and really, really compelling.
Yeah, I agree. I know that as I was watching it, so I at one point was like very involved in Chris Hansen's attempt at making a YouTube channel the first time around, and him botching a lot of like actual potential legal cases with like YouTubers who had done things like he lost a laptop, like flat out a victim sent him a laptop that had evidence and he lost it. So he just literally, the man does not actually fucking care about justice. He cares about his legacy and his popularity. And honestly, this documentary does a really good job showing what a lot of the focus is in the second half in their True Blue or whatever it is, True Blue.
And giving him enough rope to hang himself too,
that's exactly
right?
it, because he does it every time. But I know that there was a moment where I was like, when it started getting into some of the YouTube stuff, I was a little worried that maybe they weren't clarifying enough, that I'm like, this isn't supposed to be glorified. But then I think by the time he gets to the end of that segment, they've really shown like, oh, this is good. You've pointed out that this person's also fucked. And that this is all fucked, and that they're also lying. They're like trying to say, oh, we have to do this to make it more dramatic, otherwise YouTube will pull it down. I'm like, that's not true. That is not why YouTube would ever pull that down. You don't have to pretend cops. If anything, pretending cops are around would make YouTube pull it down because you're like lying. So I was like, I wish you had specifically said that's a lie, but I guess if they didn't verify or didn't have a way to verify it. But I think by the end of the segment, it gets very clear that it's like, they've also given those people enough rope to kind of like hang themselves.
Exactly,
and even themselves as filmmakers. They have to do, there's a moment that after they're showing one of these like YouTube sting operations where they then have to say, they're YouTubers, they don't have to ask your permission. Can we get a clearance?
We have to implicate ourselves a little bit in this situation.
I like that they did that because so many documentaries won't. So absolutely. I like that they did that. I also really, really liked this documentary, and yeah.
He never uses too heavy of a hand, and I think it's really all the better for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very good.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for Alabama Solutions, Zach's right. This is the doc that blew me away.
Yeah.
We talked about like whether it was going to go the place we wanted it to. Oh, it went there.
And it does.
And I agree with you. The YouTube. Yeah, the YouTube segment, I was like, oh, when it did it, we went, oh, he's going there.
Yeah.
He stayed there a while, for sure.
He did. That's why at first I was like...
It's probably the only lull I had for the movie where I was like, I'm actually tired of these guys.
It went a little bit too far.
Yeah.
To get to the point where I was like, oh, they're also... You're pointing out that they're fucked, too.
But it's got the archives you need. It's got the
Yeah.
talking heads you want. And the fact that he's willing to ask himself the question of when isn't every filmmaker a predator to
Yeah.
any capacity? To
Yeah.
have the editor, as we were mentioning prior, that there was another documentary in the next category called Zodiac Killer Project, and where that guy is finishing up the documentary he never got to finish by showcasing to you how to make a documentary by explaining all the ones that have been out, the different tricks and tips that they do. And this, Predators,
Yeah.
is the best version of breaking that fourth wall and really asking the questions of, like, when are you complicit in the entertainment that
Yeah.
you're trying to justify as justice when it's really
Yeah.
not that? And I
Yeah.
thought it was very profound.
Yeah, I agree.
I replayed the
Super
intro
solid.
because Alina wasn't there for the beginning.
Oh yeah.
Damn, you got half through it, bro. I was like, no, we gotta
Yeah,
watch
it's
more.
hard
We
not
gotta watch
to.
more.
It's hard not to.
hard
It's
not to.
really
It's
good.
super,
It's
super
really
compelling.
good.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
And again, just knowing, like, for one, that Hansen agreed to be in it, and two, like, they just, I hope they just knew that if they let him go on enough, his
Not
ego
'cause
would get him there.
Yeah, isn't
Yeah.
Hansen worse than like Metallica when it comes to copyright? So like the worst
yeah.
thing that could
Oh,
happen
yeah, he's bad.
is that he like doesn't
He's
want it
bad.
out there or whatever. But
Yeah, it's
I think one
too late
of the
now.
big parts early on is when they remind you that the show only ran for 3 seasons, and you're like, no.
But it's just constant reruns, and it's
No.
like how many episodes are per season.
Yeah.
But like, yeah,
And it just shows you the effects though
yeah,
of
because
how something from this period has lasted this long.
yeah, because you get cycles. You get
Copycats
it
and
comes out.
everything, yeah.
You're all popular, and then it becomes, oh, we can react to this online, and then it's,
Yeah.
oh, we have copycats, and then it's like, oh, he's trying new things.
But it's evergreen, isn't that gross?
Yeah, it's the same thing with like catfish. Even I've done some catfish stuff, but it's like, 'cause
Right, when
most
you
of
go
it's
on like
fake.
a binge of some like crazy
Yeah.
stuff where really the whole reason you're watching this TV show is out
Is
of
be-
people getting caught or failing or embarrassing themselves, breaking
Yeah.
their hearts.
Yeah.
We are the predators watching
Yeah, of
Predators to a
course.
degree. And,
yeah, of course.
And with
We're
that, I think it's a
all
genius
voyeurs.
movie.
Yeah, no, it's really good. And I think, again, much
So many
like
good docs.
Perfect Stranger, YouTube's going to dig the hell out of this kind of thing. Like, it's another one
Yeah.
that's going to do really well for that true crime thing that I hope makes it a
Yeah.
little bit introspective on, like, the things that they seek out or that we all seek out.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think this is one that, even though it hasn't been picked up yet, I would be very surprised if it doesn't get picked up.
Yeah.
It's just
No,
Yeah,
this
it's
needs to
which
go.
network is going to be willing to also somewhat
HBO.
implicate themselves.
HBO. Please.
HBO.
It would be
Yeah,
a very good
hopefully.
fit for HBO.
I know we'll be doing honorable mentions, but did you have any other docs that you liked?
You know what didn't make my list, but I really thought was strong. Folktales was one that was really, really excellent. The story of this like outdoors school in Scandinavia where kids go and learn to be more content with themselves. I mean, I thought it was really just really
enter
heartwarming,
adulthood,
and
yeah.
also like just so much good doggo footage. Like
Yeah.
all the bestest
Beautiful.
boys and girls.
We have our best cinematography, but there is a montage in this when
Oh,
they're
sure.
setting up for a night that is unreal.
Yeah,
It's cheating because of
and
where
this
they're
was-
at. Yeah.
And this was probably the winner for the I can't believe this is a documentary with footage this good award that we
nice.
normally give to Luke Lorenz in movies.
Dude,
But
I was about to mention your ambulance movie. Like, how do you capture something like that on the go?
yeah.
Nah, it was pretty good. A good pick.
Yeah.
Shout out to Seeds, which I don't know if
Seeds,
you
yeah.
ended up catching that either. I think
Yeah.
that was the jury award winner for the U.S. dramatic
So, yeah.
competition.
Covering the
another
Black Farmers, yeah.
Yeah, another really beautifully filmed documentary. This one in black and white. It reminded me a bit of the documentary Time that eventually got nominated for an Oscar.
Oh,
'cause
yeah.
Yeah.
It just
Good reference.
has this like gorgeous black and white cinematography, and you're kind of over the shoulder in this person's day to day as they're trying
Yeah.
to work through these different issues. Very different subject matters, but the eye.
It's not a
is
timeline
really,
doc, where you're looking back and seeing what happened with their history. It's an observant doc. I
Yes,
didn't realize
yes.
that. Yeah, you're just like watching them, but that's a good pick. You got
like-
2000?
I was going to
Yeah,
say, I was just about to say, I really like
How about-
2,000 meters to end Drift. This is
Wild.
not really the Sundance I've watched the most docs. Like, I've just missed some narratives I probably really
The
should have caught.
influence.
But yeah, I
Yes.
was just like, but like, there was just so many more that I felt like were more in line specifically with things I was interested in. And I'm
Yeah.
always down to see docs that are outside my interest scope, but it just like, obviously I'm going to watch a documentary about To Catch a Predator. Perfect Neighbor. Once I got the confirmation it was good, I'm in there. And then 2,000 meters is, again, it's a follow-up to
20 Days in Mariupol.
Yeah, Mariupol.
Which won the Oscar.
nominated.
And
Or
it's
Oscar
fantastic.
winning, I
and-
should say.
Yeah.
Yep.
And this is just like so incredibly hard to watch because, you know, the filmmaker is also like a soldier. You know, he's got camera strapped to himself and you can just see him crawling out of trenches with a gun in one hand and
Like, what?
just like it's crazy. And then like you're watching people and you're hearing stories from people and then eventually on screen it'll just be like that person went missing.
Yeah. It's unreal.
And
When
it's
he was
like and it's
capturing
people
it,
that
yeah.
you built like an actual personality. Like they had nicknames, they had stories, and it's like people debating whether they should quit smoking or not. And it's like
You didn't think he'd be able to one up being 20 days there in Mariupol to show
Yeah.
you what was happening,
Right.
the guilt of not being there for a lady who had lost her child and being willing to go back to find her.
Yeah.
Then he straps up cameras on these people
Yeah.
so you
Yeah.
see it in real time. It's
Yeah.
unreal.
GoPros of dudes
GoPros,
jumping in
yeah,
and out of
just
tanks and stuff. It's
Crazy
It's nuts.
bodies, just
Like,
it's
I don't want
real.
to
Like, you're gonna
trivialize
see
it.
actual dead.
Yeah,
You're gonna
yeah,
see
yeah.
dead bodies.
Yeah.
You're gonna see people dying
But
because
what
it's
I
like
was about to
real
say,
war.
for sure.
Like, I don't want to trivialize it, but it's like watching Black Hawk Down or Saving Private Ryan, but
Yeah,
it's
Band
all
of Brothers.
real footage.
What was the name that you said? Most
1917?
Yeah.
No, the
it-
Ukrainian
yeah.
name. The biggest Ukrainian name out there for men. You had given me a
Oh,
name.
Anjay?
So we had said Saving Private Sergei or
I was
something
Saving
like that.
Private Anjay? Yeah.
Anjay, yeah. No, because
Anjay.
this is like an unreal way to see it because what can top really great directing in Saving Private Ryan? Actually strapping strapping it on a
Yeah.
soldier who's fighting
Yeah.
for it. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable. Yeah. So
Yeah.
2,000 meters has to get that shot out right there.
Absolutely.
Middletown. What a
Middletown's my other one. Yeah.
Oh, Middletown. Excellent, excellent. Yeah, you want to talk about that one a little bit?
really good conspiracy doc.
Yeah.
Once you think it's all about ecological things, you never think that Tony Soprano's behind it all.
But
There's
it
an
makes
alternate
sense.
name for it. Yeah, called what was the movie? Because it's technically picking up on again another movie that never got finished called
Greed,
Gangsters,
guns,
Garbage,
and
and Greed,
gangsters.
Gangsters, and-
Garbage,
Yeah.
greed, and gangsters. Yeah.
Yeah. Garbage, Green, and Gangsters.
and this was
yeah.
supposed to be the actual sequel to it because that movie never got out.
Yeah.
I thought this was very well done. It's from our duo.
the
previously made
McBain,
Jesse McBain,
and
or Amanda McBain and Jesse
Moss.
McBoss. Yeah.
They both made
Who did Boy State and Girls State.
Girl
State.
State. And
we
this
don't talk
one's
about the
good.
one that's the Mormon one, but this one was incredible. This one was
Yeah.
fantastic, very invigorating, and a good way to follow these kids who really got into it as an elective almost.
Yeah,
and then
and then-
ended up becoming journalists,
Yeah,
invigorated.
and then
in
people
it.
try to shut them down for that. It's like you're just
Yeah.
students, and it's like we got
No, it's
nothing but
crazy.
time.
And it really-
there's
yeah.
literally, I think there's one line in the movie that I really think kind of like sums up the attitudes of like these like corporations and gangsters and just think it's just the Indians have been saying it for years. The white man shits in his own nest.
Yeah. Oh, that's how we like First Cow. They ran
You
out of
know?
the beavers. They overused the beavers. It's Honeyland stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and it is just that kind of thing that like people get so obsessed with, with like their own capital, their own place, their own status, their own money, their own pockets, that they'll
Yeah.
ruin their own communities because they can move or they're not
Yeah.
from those communities. Or it's to make, and then they'll cover it up because they have property in those communities and they want to make sure that they don't lose the property value.
When
It's
the
insane.
mafia isn't the real bad guys, that's when you know.
That's
we're screwed.
We're
It's
screwed.
messed up.
We're screwed. And this is like, unlike, it's not, it doesn't need to be a narrative. You could make a really good narrative out of this, but like
I
this,
think you can, yeah.
this is just a solid, it kind of feels a little
They
bit
had
maybe
some
like
characters.
like
They
a
had
bad
some characters
education.
in this.
That's what I mean, like a bad education.
Oh, bad
type thing.
education? Perfect
Ki-
way to cover this movie
that's-
because
you-
it
that-
is the school,
that
the
same
class
thing.
trying
Yeah.
to do it. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, that'd be good.
exactly. So you could do the same kind of vibe. I thought it was, it was interesting to start, and then it keeps getting deeper and deeper. And it's like it's admirable that people, they work that hard and managed to bring it back this far down the
Saw a
line.
documentary.
Yeah.
Some other ones, Marley Maitland, Not Alone Anymore, surprised me. I liked it a lot more seeing her story. She's
That
a
was good.
legend for a reason. It's so good. Zach had told me she takes a little bit of Deaf President now because she was also a part of that, a part of captioning and all these different things. There's even a scene where they talk about Coda that made me like it more. So I put
that's
that
fair.
one out there. Marley Matlin, Zach had mentioned Perfect Neighbor, Selena, y Los Dinos, that got taken off because people were sharing it. But hey, it's a good doc. There will be many more of her. This was a solid
it's
doc.
Selena.
Yeah, archiving everything. You really get to know her as a person, and I hope that that's the biggest push people get out of this doc. Talk about Andre's an Idiot because that was one that Zach and I got really late. And,
Yeah, same. Andre,
we're scheduled for our
late at
exams.
night. Yeah, Andre's an Idiot is one of those ones that, like, looking at the premise, I was really interested in catching. And it's just really, it's like, it's hard to say that it's basically a guy who just kind of missed a colonoscopy and then finds out he's like stage 4 rectal cancer. And just kind of, he's just a very funny guy. So they're basically kind of filming it and going through the process of like his treatment and his family, and then just watching that kind of deteriorate. And it's ultimately just this message of like, get yourself checked, you know, like there's so much going around.
It's
this
a whole
is
big warning. Yeah.
It's a whole
Look
big
at how
warning.
bad it is if you don't
and
get
also
checked.
just
How
like
bad it can get.
approaching death with some humor and levity, that it doesn't
Always
always,
appreciate
have
that,
to be this really devastating thing. It
Yeah.
can be a new experience.
Y'all told me A24 had it and is now playing hot potato with it.
Yeah, so we got the email from A24, and this one specifically outlines that it is a sales title. So they produced it, but they might be not
They wanna make some
distributing
money.
it. We'll see.
Bro,
A24 is not known for their docs, so I could see why they don't have the faith in distributing it
But
themselves.
the fact that they made it, though, that's
Yeah,
cool. That's when
it
you
is
start really
cool.
becoming a big company.
That's absolutely, it's very cool. Like, I think ideally they'd sell it to like an HBO. This seems like something HBO could really kind of do, that
That'd be
kind of
decent.
like that
Yeah.
kind of like punk marketing with a little
Yeah.
bit, like that
For
kind of vibe. But
I
yeah.
agree with Zach's Alabama solution, which is fantastic. This is at the top of my list. Predators. I really like Life After from Reed Davenport. He did. I Didn't See You There.
Yes.
It's just more experimental. This one is about people and the law to have the right to die. But he says
yeah.
it's the right to live my life the way I want to. Really surprising with this one. It's even better than his last one.
Nice.
Life After is very good. I thought Sally was also very good. I want to see this story adapted into a feature film. I want to see someone play these characters. It is such a profound life that she lived outside of the achievements that she had. That one won the Alfred P. Sloan. The Librarians, alongside with How to Build a Library, were some incredible documentaries about what you do with the information that you have and who wants to stop that. In The Librarians in particular, they had some of the greatest intro credits because it was the catalog of the library, and I thought they were just showing us montages. Then I realized, no, that person, the producer, didn't check out the book. The amount of information and the studies that they do to show you who's funding these things kind of blew my mind because I know some of these people. Librarians went all out.
Nice.
Last one I'll mention here. This was one that I didn't get to see on a bigger screen. I literally saw it on my phone while waiting in line for Twinless, and I saw people coming out of this blowing, like their minds were blown.
Oh shit.
Black News. We
Oh,
almost
yeah.
didn't even
Yeah.
get this one.
Yeah.
This is the last one to mention here, but an encyclopedia come to life.
Oh.
I know no other way to put it because it is an experimental, almost documentary, just showcasing you visuals of the pages from this massive archive, this almost art exhibition that was out there. This movie did have some controversy because it got pulled because the studio and the director were butting heads about what the final
Yeah.
project was supposed to be. I think we got to see the director's vision, and people are really liking it. Yeah, this will be one to definitely put on your radar because it feels like an art piece, motion picture that you'll be able to capture at home.
It's escaping me now, but there's this British filmmaker that does these like really montage centric essays about modern life, and that was
that's what
my
reminded you of?
yeah, that's what Black News reminded me of, and I'll have to like drop his name in post because it's
If you
bothering
think about
me
it, yeah,
how
we'll just say it back.
Yeah, no, we talked
That's
about him in the
interesting.
past, but yeah,
Really? Okay.
because it's really just this like series of images and ideas that
Yeah. Like,
collectively form a bigger statement. It's really, really fascinating movie.
Because he pretends
Black
like he's
News.
cutting to the next thing, but in reality, it's commentating on the thing it just was talking about. Very clever movie.
And they'll just be random, inserts that feel unrelated but kind of are spiritually related. Really cool stuff.
Subconscious
and as
stuff.
long as
That's
we're
what
just-
this is.
As long as we're just throwing some more names out there, I enjoyed The Dating Game, the look at
Wish I had caught it.
modern dating in China, a country that has 30 million more men than women. Really fascinating,
I was
although
also
kind of like
surprised at that
surface
one.
level talk. Yeah, at the end credits, they put their social media QR codes up on the screen just in case
Dude,
you want a
it's so
Chinese
bad.
husband.
Yeah, when the
Hey.
doc got to the part where the parents have to go to the park to like sell their kids. Please date my son. Because
man.
the population, because of their one-child policy,
And just the
Has-
culture of
and the
prioritizing male sons.
30
yeah.
million more men than women. You're screwed, guys. You're screwed. I'm sorry, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's unfortunately any culture that really kind of prioritized like, oh, when you get older, your son is responsible for taking care of you. They just don't
Dunzo.
prioritize their women. So it's
Yeah,
like
that was very rough.
Yeah.
Pretty standard, but I was surprised by it. You had mentioned the Putin one. I did not get to finish that. I started a bit, so I know the premise. Was it good?
Yeah. Mr. Nobody Against Putin, a really interesting story about like a Russian school teacher who tries to document propaganda as it begins to
Yeah.
spread through the schools. And yeah, kind of just a chilling story about how these kind of dictatorial regimes work and what it's like being somebody opposed to them within, the system. Pretty fascinating and really compelling story. And then I'll also throw a little bit of love towards Khartoum, which is a very creative story about Sudanese refugees, and it lets them sort of tell their stories in very evocative ways.
Nice.
And then lastly, Gen Underscore, which is a story about a doctor in Italy that does a bunch of hormone therapy,
telling me about those.
sometimes to women seeking IVF, sometimes to people who are transitioning their gender. And I think it's just a really intimate look at conversations with doctors on a very practical level. It's really just the mechanics of these actual instances and situations, not in a like hyperbolic sense, but just the practical realities of navigating these situations. And I found it to be pretty revelatory and non-sensationalistic. I
a good
just
way to
really
put it.
appreciated its perspective on it. And I think a lot of people could use that kind of perspective. So Gen Underscore would be the last one I shout out in terms of documentaries.
Cool.
Great docs overall. Spoiled with the documentaries this year. Really
Yeah,
good documentaries.
yeah.
And still a lot to catch that were in person and stuff. So we'll be giving you more of that coverage there. But I think that leads us to our top 3.
Yeah, and you and I
We
have
already
already
got our
said
threes.
our third in Lurker, so we need to hear from Amanda what she got at number 3.
I think my number 3 is going to be higher. It has to be higher on at least one of your lists. Sorry, Baby is my number 3 right now.
That is going to be higher. So I'll take it back for my number 2, which is going to be If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You. Art, you got this as well, or?
It's my honorable mention.
Okay. Well, Amanda had it down at number 8 on her list.
8.
I can tie it
just
with
think-
10 if you want to make it all 3.
It's up there.
I don't have space in my document. Please don't make me do it.
It's worth it. It's worth it.
I think this is a really remarkable movie. We talked about this film in a much larger discussion, so I'll keep it pretty brief, but just the ability that this film has to feel like the swirling chaos of an uncontrolled life around you. It's so evocative. It's so effective. People are going to love this. People are going to hate this, but no matter what, people are going to feel this movie
Yes,
viscerally.
sir.
Yeah. As long as we all walk away wanting to kill her husband on her behalf, the world can repair itself.
I'm going on that ASAP Rocky site and ordering everything he had in bulk.
Exactly.
So If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You, my number 2.
Nice.
Feel free to check out the description for our longer thoughts on that
Yep.
movie. Arturo, what do you have at number 2?
You're number 1.
All right.
Okay.
So do we go with Sorry Baby right now then? With Amanda's number 3 and my number 1,
No, no,
Art's
no,
number
no, no,
2? Or
My number 1 is Ballad. So let me just say my final things, which is that it surprised the hell out of me because
Yeah.
I see myself so much in this guy who would use his humor to
Yeah.
hide out what would be that the person who you live life with is now gone.
Yeah.
And what you would do if you had the means to be able to reconnect by having the people who brought you two together.
Yeah.
As that band also is struggling to remember those memories that caused that music, and maybe it's too much for them to come back together while a person is dying to just have that again from a person. All of that hits me a little too much.
I know.
That's
man.
my number 1.
Oof, it's so good.
And now we could talk about the one that really reflected all of us. Unless there's another
let
one.
me
Let me
throw it
number
to Amanda for her number 2.
Yeah.
So she has
And
a
then we can
break
do the-
between her number 2 and number 1.
My
Let's do
number
it.
2 is probably nowhere near. I'm going Ojai. I'm sorry. I liked it.
Hey, yo, as long as it's not Cuties or what was the doc that like literally made all of our sugar babies.
Sugar babies. Yeah, no.
Probably my only negative
No.
review.
No, I don't know what it was. I just had so much fun with Ojai. I was like laughing the entire time. I don't know. I loved it. I had such a good time with it. We do have a full video talking
That's all
about it.
matters.
I don't think anybody disliked it in this group. I just liked it the most. I can agree that there's
Definitely.
areas where maybe it gets a little bit weaker. It maybe doesn't go far enough in certain areas, but there are like literally her face when she's making the French toast. I just can't. She's doing all this crazy shit, and then it's just like, wait, what? I just love it.
That
I'm
line,
really into.
Fast 6, yeah.
It's so good. I'm just really into these movies that are kind of dealing with like modern dating landscape and just how things are forced to change because of like a modern world or just people are using as an excuse to be shitty.
Unless there's infidelity.
No, I said I'm okay with infidelity as long as they shake it out appropriately. I just did not like the circumstances in which the infidelity occurred, the justifications they used, and the fallout
Hey, we got
of
a
it.
cheat code for some cheating, Zach. You got to understand that.
Dude,
Right.
it's sometimes it's literally it's Red Rocket versus Licorice Pizza again. It's
The one I
why
know
it's
is
how
gonna be
it's being
licorice.
it's how it's being featured in the movie that affects me. But yeah. But no, I'm sorry. If this had involved cheating, we know who we'd be hating by the end of the movie. We know who we'd be like, fuck that person. I didn't get
Yeah.
that catharsis in the movie you're referring to, but either way.
Great
I don't know.
soundtrack for
Yeah,
Ohio.
really good soundtrack. I just really liked it. I had a ton of fun. And it might be one of those ones that the more I watch it, the less I like it. But as of right now, I just have to remember like that feeling. I was like
What gave you the biggest one? Yeah.
excited. I was in such a good mood walking out of it that like that's kind of hard to discount sometimes
deny,
when you're
yeah,
just
yeah.
like, yeah.
Same with me and
So-
Ballad.
And I love Ballad too. It's so
Yeah.
good. But yeah, so that's my number 2. That's my unpopular
Nice.
Yeah.
of the list.
All right, so before we talk about the top movies of our list, are there any other honorable mentions we should give a quick shout out? Because we did the docs.
Atropia was
Yeah,
a
none of
5
us
out of
ta-
5 movie for an hour.
I was gonna say Atropia. I don't even hate how it ends, but like yeah, it's like
No,
so
no, yeah,
so.
right.
yeah.
It dips to a 3.5, but you had an
It
hour of a
doesn't
5-star
seem
movie.
like it
Yeah.
knows exactly where it wants to go, so it just sort of goes a bunch of places.
Yeah.
And I didn't
so
I didn't
strong.
I hate it.
mind
Yeah.
really any of it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
exactly.
Yeah, like it just for a movie that has so much urgency in its like subject matter, there's none in its pacing.
A little bit. For those who need to know,
but-
Atropia is a town in America, kind of like what's a doc that was all archive about how they get people here?
Riotsville, yeah.
Thank you. Like a Riotsville town, and she is an actress who sets up so that during the Bush era, the military can practice against whether insurgencies. But to a
Yeah.
degree,
yeah,
you wonder.
so it's like a fake Middle Eastern country
Literally to
that
try
they
to prep
can
people,
role play army.
there's so much good stuff. Yeah, it's
which
insane.
is like,
It's
and
just
then
Yeah.
it's real. It's the fact that it's
Right?
real because it sounds
Yeah.
so fake because it's so stupid, and then somehow it's not.
Is this helping the soldiers to stop it, or
Yeah.
is this helping
Or
the
is it
insurgents?
making
We're
them
coming
be
up with
able to
plans.
see this more as fake when they get over
Yeah.
there? Are they going to think it's fake?
It's like also a
Yeah,
movie about
so-
acting because they are actors and the way that they go about casting and stuff. Also,
Well, that's the
like
thing
supporting
is-
performances from Tim Heidecker and what's her name?
Chloe Sevigny,
Chloe
yeah,
Sevigny,
excellent.
yeah.
That's the thing is that it is a movie about so many things because it's about performance, not just like of acting, but performance of culture, whether or not you are authentically of a culture.
Yeah. And
It
even
is
life,
about
cosplaying a life almost.
right.
You know?
It is about the U.S. military and have their preparedness, their incentives, just what their operation achieves in general.
Yeah.
And there's
What
so
some
many fascinating
soldiers-
ideas.
Yeah, like what some soldiers get up to in other countries and what they tell
It's
women
crazy,
and then
yeah.
come back home.
No, I'm
Yeah.
telling you, it begins way too strong for this to have been
Yeah.
an honorable.
Yeah.
But hey, Sundance gave it the
It's
big
good.
award. The jury announced it as their winner, and I was
Yeah.
happy to see that. I know this was the one that all of y'all got into, and I went up to Main Street to
Yeah,
go
you and
see
Marjani.
all that's left of you in real time. But I got to get with that as well. But at the end of it, I was able to go see. Well, that wasn't the day I went for that. That was the day where I was just SOL. But
Yeah.
other than that, I ended up catching this late at night, and I was like, "Whoa, this is really strong. What happened?" Oh, the second half. Still a good
Because
movie.
So strong.
But a
for
very
the first
strong
half,
intro.
it's like a little MASH and a little Four Lions, and
Yeah.
then by the end, it's kind of neither. But
Yeah.
I still liked it.
Yeah.
I still really
it a
liked
lot.
it, but
Liked it a
it
lot.
could have kept it all the way.
Yeah.
Shout out
the
to
friend I
Tropia.
brought to see it loved it. So it's like some people
Fire.
are really
Good.
digging it. So
No, I'm excited to pitch this one. So that's my first honorable mention.
yeah. I think I'll go with Cactus Pears, which won an award.
Yeah.
That it's slow, but it's like really meditative and beautiful with someone again kind of dealing with similar to Plainclothes in that like dealing with the loss of the father while struggling with certain feelings that he has for another man and what that means in his culture. And even how it affects how people view him within his own family. He's supposed to have all these responsibilities as a son, and someone's immediately trying to say like, you can't, I don't know if you're the one who should be doing it. And he has to kind of be like, well, I'm going to. It's also very interesting. Like there's certain just a culture around the funeral of things he has to do for 10 days to like prep the to following like the grieving or to as part of the grieving process. But I was just really moved by this one. Definitely it is slower, but it's still really nice. So that's one for me.
I'll give a shout out to Two Women. This is a pretty
Nice.
delightful sex comedy of sorts about a couple of married women who are in ruts in their sexual lives. And it's just sort of got like a very kind of fun, groovy energy to it too, where nothing is overly serious and it's bright and it's fun. It moves. Not necessarily like the deepest look at like marital ennui, but I just found the performances in it to be delightful. I found it to be a pretty sexy movie, which is half of what you ask for in a movie like that. So
True.
Yeah, Two Women. I'd recommend it.
I'm gonna recommend y'all one I don't want y'all to watch. It's April. Shout out our boy for prepping me for this, because going into this screening there was nobody in there. We had a guy come in. Am I at the right screening? It's like, yeah, it's just the five of us for April. Taylor
Because it's been
let
at
me
like
know.
4 different festivals at this point.
Exactly.
So.
It was one of the spotlight ones, or
Yeah.
the ones that they're carrying over. I think it's a very profound movie. It's just very slow, but with a purpose. It is about a woman who is performing abortions, but also births. So the births is what she's hired for, but she's doing secret abortions around the town. There's also like a metaphysical element that's going on around the movie. And out of all the horrors that we saw, this surprisingly has some scenes that are even more disturbing. This should be coming out soon, I believe in April, so keep that one on your radar. I did think it was a pretty solid pick. Ugly Stepsister will be the one where I can say it's way more mainstream for people to catch. This is an IFC Shudder one, so it should be on Shudder, but we'll get a little bit of a theatrical, hopefully, in where it's taking the story of Cinderella, but focusing on the ugly stepsister, so you can kind of like understand what her story was. And I think the story is good.
Nice.
But they keep one-upping every violent scene.
I was going to say, this is that one that they were like, if you have a weak stomach, this might be the one you skip in the midnight category.
It's I think the only midnight movie I did, because it was the opening day. Alina had tickets and I was able to buy one right before.
Yeah.
If you know the original story from the Grimm Fairy Tales, they go there.
Yeah, of course. Which
And then they say,
I love.
And then they say, what if we do another one? And they do the other one. It's crazy.
Nice.
And then one I want to talk with you guys about. Well, I like Live Brooklyn as well. I found out that the story was they were all supposed to be white, and then they just made them black, and I was like, that's
it's
pretty
reframing
interesting.
to make
and your
it,
boy from the Daily Show, he's done really great freaking
Roywood Jr.
breakdowns. Dude, of the movie, like he made me like it a lot more about
sick.
What you're leaving behind, and are you the reason why something changes because you didn't stay to fight it? I was like,
No, I liked it. Yeah, the story actually resonated with me quite a bit, so I did
about
enjoy it.
Generation of Brooklynites and whether they will survive.
Yeah.
Magic Farm. Zach had mentioned Sticky.
Oh, we're talking Magic Farm. Can I just really quickly just say Sauna, also sticky?
No. You have to mention Sauna. That was. Let me check my. Talk about it. I think that might have been one of my highest ones, surprisingly, from World.
I know that there's been like some people who are like,
Hell yeah.
In the trans community, some people have really liked it. Some people have been like, I feel like we've kind of like maybe done this story in certain ways too many times. But I thought it's a very personal story to the director, who is a gay man dating a trans man, and it is just kind of telling the story of kind of coming to that like realization and what you're willing to do for a person to kind of like prove a certain kind of love, but when people are kind of at different stages of where they are in life and like kind of like the growing pains that can happen. My only issue is I do maybe wish we had had a little bit more time building the relationship. It just kind of feels like they meet and then it's like very instantly like all in love. I think I just wanted maybe a little bit more build up there, but overall I was just really struck by the performance, by this main character's journey. I can't remember his name right now, but just by the journey he takes, the things he's willing to do, even when he knows it's not something that the boyfriend would want him to do. And it's like, but it's like just desperately trying so hard to maintain that connection and prove like, no, I do love you. I do see you. I do care for you.
Yeah.
I do want to fight for this. And then just kind of like the insecurities that can like trickle in when people are kind of part of the same community, but also different communities within that community.
Exactly.
And how that can feel and how that can be reflected. I don't know. I thought
Johan.
Johan. Yeah.
Magnus, played by Magnus Joel Anderson. And like you were saying, what the premise is that our main character works at a gay sauna.
Yeah.
And what happens when you found a place of refuge that then becomes a place where others aren't invited if they don't fit that? That's fascinating.
It is. It honestly deals with some of the stuff I feel like Jimpa dealt with, but in a way that like felt more like just that idea of like you've created communities, but then when the communities start to change, when people try to
review. I just want a full hate review from both of you, because you guys usually, you'll agree or you'll butt heads.
Yeah,
but I want to see y'all hate something together.
That's fair. It's happened, but yeah, no, I just it was just that kind of idea where you get like old heads and just people who are like, well, no, we're part of the same community, but this is the way this is, and we fought for this, and we're not letting anything else kind of like infiltrate it.
The next story to be told, what happens?
Yeah, what happens when you're kind of working it down, and when is there like actual genuine growing pains, and when is it valid for someone to say, oh, I do feel like this space is being invaded, and what are situations where like, does it really affect you if someone else is hooking up with someone that you're not going to hook up with here? That isn't, like, does it really matter? Yeah. It's not a slippery slope, I don't think, but I just thought it was really, really interesting.
I didn't get to see the Cactus one, so I had Sauna as my number one, and Brides, which I know you guys caught early. That was a crazy way of seeing people getting indoctrinated.
Yeah.
By pitching it the way they would see it.
I just wish it had gone harder. I just wish it had gone harder. But yeah, road trip. For Brides, I wish it had gone harder.
Cactus Pears is one that I wish I had a little more time for. I think every year there's a slow-moving movie that I save for one of the last
Final
days.
day.
I think last time that was like All Dirt Roads. All Dirt Roads, Taste of Salt.
Yeah.
Good One is another one where I just wish I had a little more time and focus.
Yeah,
for
me
it
and Zach were watching
like,
Cactus Pears together, and like he was like, I wish I had more attention for this right now.
It's like Train Dreams. You told us to go to the theater, and that was the right choice.
It was the right choice for multiple reasons, because it would have been gone by the time we went to see it, but also because I want to be locked into that experience. I want to make sure nothing can even remotely start distracting me. Yeah.
Agreed. Exactly. And Cactus Pears was so unbelievably tender, and I feel like I would have had a stronger response to it had I just had a little more focus to give it. So I will revisit
even
that movie
I agree.
But,
it's like still an honorable mention for me, but it might go up when I watch it again. So
nice. Yeah. But I'm glad that you gave it the shout out there for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but did you want to talk about Magic Farm? Did you actually want to talk about it? Because like it's not an honorable.
I just wanted to give it the shout out because we all came out going, "What the hell was that?" And then couldn't stop quoting the movie to various degrees. And that's a sticky movie. There's a couple of movies where they're hard to recommend. Maybe it shouldn't even be a premiere. Maybe it should be more of a next category. The story is about a group kind of like Vice, because she said she grew up watching.
Yeah.
Her family was involved with Vice internationally. Some news organization. So the actress-director who's in the film takes an entire crew who goes to the middle of South America to go find this woman who's been going viral online for this mystical cult that she's a part of. Yeah. It's just trying to film her, and it's all the ups and downs that they go through. Yeah. They put cameras on goats. I swear to you, this that I'm showing you is how this is the cinematography to the movie. I swear to you, they'll capture something.
It's like they saw an early cut of Lurker and were like, let's do it.
Right? They're not panning to another character in the scene. They're panning to the next scene.
Yeah.
It's interesting, though.
Yeah, it is interesting.
It's kind of stuck with me.
It does maybe give, because it felt like they did specifically say it was like, I think they were YouTube videos. They weren't making Vice docs. They were making I was under the impression they said they were making YouTube videos, and it was just one of those like ones that kind of got to the level that they're a production company, but on YouTube.
Well, yeah, I think
Like
it's
Vice?
like the Vice stuff that went straight to YouTube, not the Vice show.
Yeah, that's fair. That makes sense. But it felt like that too. It didn't feel like it had the Vice budget. It just, like there was no checks and balances there.
None.
But Alex Wolff,
It's
like every 2 seconds, just crying, being like, "I'm
Soft
just
boy.
going through
Soft boy.
something."
It's a
Soft
very
boy.
uneven movie, but it is really funny in spots
Yeah, I
and
didn't
really
hate it.
interesting.
I walk out and I was like, "That's a average Sundance movie."
Yeah. But one that we've gotten some mileage out of, so it says something, and I think for the right audience, it might actually connect. So keep Magic Farm on your radar.
Yeah.
But the movies you really got to keep on our radar are the ones at the top of our lists. Art had Sorry Baby at 2, Amanda had it at 3. I've got it as my number 1 movie of this year's
Absolutely.
Sundance Film Festival.
It is the
new
Sundance
film.
movie.
It's great.
It kind of is like the spiritual winner of this year's Sundance, I'd say, at least, given the awards and the general hype around it. It is a beautifully told, dramatic comedy that, to me, reminded me of some really classic film writer-director stars like Albert Brooks or Miranda July. I think Ava Victor is definitely has announced herself as a voice to watch off of this film. And I was really deeply affected by it. I laughed so hard. I felt so impacted by what she's trying to say with the film. I like this one a lot. I think it's really going to resonate with people. And we went into longer discussion in a separate video on this one. But yeah, why is this one of the best, if not the best film of this year?
Give them a quick premise, if you had like a log line for it in case.
I was going to say it's about a graduate student who becomes a professor, and it sort of goes a little bit through her academic career and some of the traumas she's experienced that have led to a bit of like Arrested Development. So it's a really kind of low key character study. I
really
quite a bit.
I like the opening, like the description of the movie is just like something bad happened to Agnes, but life goes on for everyone around her.
That's how she would describe it. Holy smokes! That's spot on.
You know, and that's kind of it, and just kind of the ways you might not even realize that you've kind of gotten yourself stuck because of a thing, and then having to reframe that through your life to try to make it through, to like just break through that other side. Again, the one thing I'll say is that it's dealing with something that would be very easy to make either like graphic, gratuitous, or just like, and not that movies that do that sometimes are wrong for doing it, but there's just a lot of ways you can handle it, and it can be harrowing. But I actually think the way she chose to kind of like pull back on it makes it that much more impactful, and that the way that it's talked about and discussed and handled after that really feels very authentic and just so deeply moving. And it also makes it so that it's a movie that I feel like people that have dealt with similar situations will be able to watch without feeling like they're re-traumatizing themselves. Yeah, I do feel like it's going to feel more therapeutic than like, wow, I'm really glad that's out there. I can't watch it. I don't actually feel like this is one of those things I need to give a content warning for, because like nothing visually is going to happen.
13 reasons why.
There's
Sometimes
no 13,
a person describing something hits way harder.
Or just implying that you know what's happening as time is passing.
A lot of it is unspoken but clear.
Yes, you know? And that's good, and it feels it just feels very authentic, and I think it's I feel like she knew she was making it for herself and her own journey, and that she was also putting it out there for other people in their journey, and wanted to make sure. I think she specifically said she wanted to make sure that it wasn't going to be something that was going to cause people additional distress, so that they could approach it and maybe realize the ways that they're stuck and how to get through to that other side, which I think is a beautiful thing, and that's kind of like a great purpose of art.
The jury scene.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I didn't want to mention that, but like it's so good. Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's so
like
funny.
That's the bit. It's that a lot of these bits, like I was saying in our longer review, is that it's like mini short films where you get a full embodied performance from what she's going through.
Yeah.
Because I was so impressed by her visual language of how she showcases things, how the timeline moves. But just the friendship part of it is so profound, because it is like someone holding your hand. You wish you had someone like her friend, played by Naomi Ackie.
Yeah, so
who's
good.
willing to go along with what you need at this moment. No, I got you. You talk about it. I'm here.
Yeah.
You do what you have to do.
You have to do. I want to clarify, nothing bad happens to the cat. If you're worried about the cat.
No, if anything, I'm here always saying that people use cats to get away with stuff, and I am more than surprised with how well the cat was here. The cat was mopping some performances from people at Sundance. It's a big deal if I'm giving 2 thumbs up to the cat. I freaking love the cat.
The cat's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, there's a lot. I think I said this. I'm not sure if I said this in the last video or just in between videos for us. But there's a lot of movies where you like a lot about the film, but this is a movie where I liked every single scene. I think every scene had some funny angle or some interesting perspective, put together some really arresting image or something like that. It's just a really well considered film, and each piece really adds to it. So I think it's a pretty impactful piece of filmmaking, and I think people are really going to like this one. So yeah, Sorry Baby, easily one of the best of the festival. All three of us got it in our top threes, but Amanda, I think you got Twinless at number one?
I do. It was it was my first standout. It makes me so happy. And I'm looking at this, and honestly, on rewatches, Sorry Baby might end up being the one that takes it over everything. But just by the end of the festival, I just could not get over how much I loved Twinless. I love the story it's telling. I think it's such a unique take on a different kind of grief, a grief that I don't really think has been explored very much in film, of losing a twin, and it actually handling that really well while also dealing with a separate character kind of going on a different journey in the director. Much like Cooper Raiff, this is a director who's willing to like take the shit end of the stick for a more interesting story. Dylan O'Brien, I know he won the award, and I know we've debated whether or not someone else could have taken the award over him, but he is really good in this. He's doing a couple different things, and it much kind of like a Joel Edgerton, it is the more subdued version of his performance that I think is the most impactful, and like the somber ways he has to realize the mistakes he's made in his life, like with that brother that he can no longer reconcile, and the things he did to try to understand him better, I thought were really, really beautiful and poignant. And it's also really funny. It's another one that is like, it is dealing with grief. So it's dealing with like some trauma and issues and pathological issues, but it's also very funny. This is the one I am so mad that they pulled, because I wish I had been able to see it again. We have a full video on this where you can learn all about why it got pulled from the digital platform. So make sure to go check that out. But this is a really good movie, not just for if you're a fan of Dylan O'Brien, but it is just a good movie.
I had it somewhere in my top.
Yeah, you had it at number 7. This was my last cut. I had this at number 11.
Yeah.
So it's
damn.
My highest honorable mention.
Hey, that's kind of funny, It's a very twin number right there. There you go.
Twin ones.
Twin ones.
But no, it's a solid movie.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. And both this and Sorry Baby are just like, in a sense, the very classic kind of Sundance movie. Films that are funny, but films that'll touch you emotionally. And I think they both do a really excellent job of not going too far in either direction, just like a nice balance of them both. So both great picks. I mean, all of our picks, because you had Ballad of Wallis Island at number 1. All of our picks, really great films out of this year's Sundance Film Festival. Hope they connect with all of you as much as they connected with us. If you did get a chance to watch some films at this year's Sundance Film Festival, let us know what you saw, and let us know what you liked in the comments down below, or sending us a message on social media at Intercut Pod, whatever social media you have, or you can
which stands for
us.
podcast, did you know?
It does. intercutpod@gmail.com is the place to email us. So lots of ways to let us know what you liked watching at Sundance.
I thought it stood for payable on death.
There we go.
So I think that just about does it for this edition of the Intercut podcast.
Another year
Zach
down.
Shevich. You can find more from me across social media at Zshevich, ZSHEVICH. Amanda, where can people find more from you?
You can find me on YouTube primarily, but Letterboxd, Twitch, Goodreads, Twitter, all this blue sky places at Amanda the Jedi.
Yeah. Amanda, Arturo, how about you?
You can catch me doing that Omaha drive back to Sundance next year. Hopefully not for the final year of Park City, but if it is,
so you're bringing Lady?
Bro, I would bring Lady for sure. 100% if it's the last.
No, for the you said Omaha, so you're bringing
absolutely
Lady?
not. Yeah, I'm doing it in reverse. I'm doing it in reverse. Okay.
Okay, fair. Yeah.
You can find me on YouTube on all that good stuff, or every week here on the Intercut podcast. Next year, especially when we start doing our Oscar reaction Sundance, talking about our Sundance picks from the year prior.
Exactly. I forgot to do. I should have done the SHEV as in Ava Victor ICH. When I'm on the phone, I always say that V as in Victor. I had a perfect opportunity.
You did. It's okay.
I wish.
Skipped it over.
Hey man, I really wish you could get that in there.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I'll have to bribe the editor in order to get that to sync up perfectly. But in the meantime, you can listen to every episode of the Intercut podcast on whatever podcatcher you use. I like Overcast, or watch Intercut on YouTube or Spotify. We're video on Spotify as well, where you can watch our worn down faces. It's been a long couple weeks. Yeah, how are the body aches going, Bart?
Yeah.
Bro, I'm freezing here. I'm in folktales this entire time that we're reviewing.
It's usually me. I feel bad. You know?
Yeah. No, it's my turn for this one, but I think tomorrow we leave for South by.
Pretty much it feels like it, though.
It really feels like it.
Hey. We're
You
glad
can
to
watch
do
our
it for y'all.
chilly faces every week here on the Intercut podcast channel, where we regularly stream, usually on Mondays with our weekend must watch, although, you know, it's festival season. We're all over the place. Leave us a comment, like the videos, shout us out on iTunes with those 5-star reviews. We know we love to see them, and those do a lot to help get us across the podcast charts. We actually been charting all over the globe. We just zoomed up the charts in Algeria. Doing really well in Algeria.
Nice.
Shout out to Brazil and all the Fernando Torres heads out there. Shout out to Ecuador, Estonia, the UAE, the Philippines, Singapore, Poland, Norway, Portugal, Thailand, Turkey, and of course, shout out to the United States of America and Canada, our home countries, where we're regularly
we'll shout out Canada. I don't want to shout you guys out right now. I'm sorry, but I'll shout out me.
Shout out some Canadians. How about that?
The Americans, some Americans will shout out.
Okay, cool. Like our social medias, I shouted them out before, but I'll shout them out again. It's Facebook, it's Twitter, it's Instagram, it's Blue Sky. It might even be Threads. I don't think we're on Red Note. Are you on Red Note?
What is Red Note?
Let me know if you're on Red Note.
No, Red Note. Every time I hear Red Note, it takes me a second to be like, this isn't a rock movie or something, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
like
no,
what?
gotcha. Okay.
It's Red
That's whatever
One.
the next one is.
Yeah, I'm on the Red One social media app with all my favorite Dwayne Johnson emojis. So find me there at Intercut.
I just imagined IMAX.
Following us on social or following us on Patreon is the best way to get updates throughout the week from Arturo, from Amanda, from me, from all the guests that we feature right here on Intercut. Thanks again for tuning in, and until next time, you can bring home the smells of Park City with you and the world of Hyatt.
Hell yeah.
That's an unpaid sponsorship. I like my little smell bottle.
That's a really cool thing. That's a cool thing.